We're good? Okay, it's 7:03, 7:02-ish. Time to get the ARB meeting started. Roll call, please.
Larson,
Here.
Cavazos,
Here.
Schneider,
Here.
Herrera, Wassick,
Here.
Corral.
Okay. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next agenda item, minute approval from the August meeting. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the ARB meeting on August 15th.
Okay, I got a motion. Any second?
I second the motion.
Okay, motion and second. Open for any discussion on corrections. Anybody see any errors in there that they want to raise?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll put it for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes of the August meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're good with that. Okay, next agenda item is citizens' time. We offer to open our mic for feedback or comments to the ARB about any issues that may be of interest to them. Do we have anybody who would like to comment during citizens' time?
Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Bob Weir, 6853 St. Paul Drive. Mr. Chairman, Marchant, you've known me a long time, and you know I'd rather stick hot pins in my eyes than come to an ARB meeting. So I guess that sort of speaks to the import of why I'm here tonight, and that's specifically the application for 14801 Washington Street and a demo permit. Ordinarily, I wouldn't come here and tell you what your job is or what you're supposed to do, but given recent events in the town, both with the town council over the last couple of months and the planning commission, similarly, I would be remiss if I didn't. I noticed the demolition permit is the result of an inspection report that was written August 19th, and the application was filed last Monday, September 10th. A mere 4 days later, there's a recommendation for approval, seeming to underscore the haste with which everything seems to be handled in this town. And I grow weary of it, and I grow weary of coming in and talking about it. As you're aware, the comp plan supports the preservation of historic structures in this town, and that is one of the listed historic structures. It's not a contributing structure, it's one of the listed historic structures, so there needs to be a compelling reason for demo. As a matter of fact, the applicant's supposed to provide a written statement describing those compelling reasons. I don't see such a statement. I don't see any documentation other than the home inspection report. I don't see an engineering survey. I don't see any comments from the building inspector. And I don't see any analysis of or documentation of the actual hardship or fiscal cost. So how are you to make that determination absent all of those facts? If you decide to do something tonight, hopefully not approve it at this early juncture, I would suggest that at bare minimum you need to issue a request or an order for a structural analysis. And if indeed it comes back that it is necessary to demo the property, then I'd like to see what else is the other things that are required, or at least tenets of good planning, which is a landscape plan or a building plan for what intends to go there. I would note that yes, the parcel is zoned B1 currently, but the only thing keeping a Wawa or a 7-Eleven from going there is that historic structure. So if that historic structure is demoed and you have no plan for what replaces it, it's Katie bar the door. And then the last thing I'd like you to do is have the building inspector look at it. And then review section 58-14.12 of the county or the town ordinance regarding demolition by neglect. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Jim Payne, 6680 Fayette Street. I'm here to talk in favor of 14801 demolition. I read through the 34-page report card, the extensive report card, and it was very difficult to find anything that wasn't a P, and P doesn't mean pass, P means poor. It looked like everything, at least that they had looked at, was pretty much in the poor arena. And I realized that this is a historic house just because of its age. I don't think that it's historic because George Washington was there or anything like that. I don't know if it be historic for any other reason but of its age. And I didn't see a bottom line dollar how much it would cost to fix all these things. And I'm not a contractor, but we are doing quite a bit of work, and I'm kind of familiar with what's going on, with our build. It seems like it would cost considerable amount of resources that the owner might not put a undue burden on the owner to do, and demolition might be something that is recommended, and I did see it was recommended. I didn't look at the dates, and I don't have all the rules and regulations, what's going on. I'm just getting what I feel as looking at the 34-page report card. If this house was a person, I'm afraid it probably would be in the ICU. No offense to anybody, but that's just what I got off of it. And so with that, I thank you for your time, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening, ARB, and welcome to the new members. Congratulations, and I wish you a lot of luck. I'm here on behalf of Haymarket Station HOA. I happen to know the applicant very well, and I like the applicant on 14801 Washington Street. However, I have to speak on behalf of my neighbors, one who's in the audience this evening. There are some concerns about this application, the rush on the application. There are concerns about what may go in there. There are concerns about exactly what the problems are and whether, in fact, you should follow the process that was used previously on other projects, getting a real structural engineer in there to make a determination whether it's salvageable or not. So those are some of the concerns that your citizens have with this application. Also, a neighbor of mine submitted an email. I'm not sure if you got the email.
Yes, I do.
All right, and she had asked if you would read it into the record this evening.
It will be read.
Okay, very good. So that'll be it for this evening, and again, thank you for your service. And hopefully you'll put this on deferral until such time as you have better information. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay.
Hello, my name's Susan Bannon. I live at 6938 Jockey Club Lane, and I don't know a whole lot about the rules and regulations and all the everything that goes into the rezoning and concerns about the historic properties in the town, but I'm coming to speak from my heart. I really do hope that you do your due diligence on this. I'm speaking of the demolition property. You know, there have been in the past, and I see particular people are not here to speak about the historic buildings that have been saved in the past. But my concern is that we need to look at what is the plan beyond demolition. My concern is that we're going to have another Crossroads, smaller scale, but certainly a mess. And I hope that you all do your due diligence tonight. Consider getting an independent structural engineer and apply the same exact standards that you applied to the property on Carolina Road that they were held to back in January. Also, this property is one of the oldest buildings in town, not to mention it is actually probably one of the best maintained, even in disrepair. So why would you allow a demo of this building when we have so many other buildings in town that really deserve to be demoed years ago? Thank you.
You. Anybody else? Okay. I do have a letter that was emailed to us that I will read. This is from Sheridan King. This is to be put into the minutes. I am unable to be present at the ARB meeting on 9/19 as I have to travel to North Carolina to assist family that has been affected by Hurricane Florence in Newport, North Carolina. I'd like to have this read during citizens' time as I am unable to attend. My name is Sheridan King. I reside at 6801 St. Paul Drive. I've been trying to keep updated via the town website and was dismayed to see that a request to demolish one of the town's most historic and notable properties built in 1909 and on the town's historic structure list was seemingly buried and already recommended to approve on this week's agenda. This property is in my backyard. I read through the request and it looks like the staff recommendation says the home requires major repairs for the home to be safely occupied, but it does appear the owner is living there. The report states that the staff supports the demolition because of the financial hardship of the homeowner. But my question is, how does the staff know about what the cost to remediate is based on solely on the home inspection report without knowing the financial situation of the homeowner? How has this been assessed? Who has done the feasibility study? How can you recommend the demolish of that if that hasn't been done and you aren't in good faith going through the same process that was applied to other properties in the past, Carolina Road, Firehouse, etc.? This is also being based on a property inspection report, not a structural engineering report. I ask that the ARB in town in good faith consider the feasibility of maintaining this building, why it hasn't been done in the past, was the home allowed to go into disrepair, and the investment it would take to rehab it versus the cost of demolishing it and rebuilding in accordance with the historic guidelines. I'd also ask that the ARB in town be consistent on the application of the process here, act accordingly as they have done in similar situations, keep the town and its historic value in mind. Don't let us lose our beautiful building in town. Also, in keeping consistent, please require a structural engineer to evaluate and report on the condition of the property. Find a certified engineer that can give an independent analysis on demolition and rebuilding versus restoration, and use this in your consideration. Also, please consider rezoning this to transitional commercial. The property is zoned B1. It would be so detrimental to our town and to all the homes surrounding this beautiful property to have this house demolished and the area not be considered as it is all residential. Keep this so that it is congruous to the surrounding area and the vision of a walking town. Please require, if the demolition is allowed, that any rebuild is in line with the historic nature of the property. Can limits be put on what is constructed? This is one of the oldest remaining structures in town. Please be consistent and thoughtful about what you do with this property. Please be transparent to your constituents. Okay, that's it for citizens' time. Last chance for anybody. Okay, we'll move on to the certificate of appropriatenesses. First one on the list is for the Verizon Wireless unmanned shelter application.
I'm going to invite up the applicant representative that's here tonight, Andrew Martin with Verizon, with SmartLink, representing the Verizon application. They'll be placing an unmanned shelter at the property here in town, just off of Madison Street. It'll sit, if you flip to page 10 in your packet, you'll see a good top-down view of where it'll sit. It'll set up in the first few parking spaces as you turn into the property on the right-hand side. You'll also see 2 pages before an image sample photo of what these structures typically look like. The applicant is proposing a stucco finish with a brick color, but I'll let them answer and kind of discuss any questions that you guys might have.
Hi, I'm Andrew Martin with Verizon Wireless, 7600 Montpelier Road, Laurel, Maryland.
Welcome.
I'm available for any questions you have. That is our typical design for an unmanned shelter, is a red brick colored stucco finish. We're going to put bollards around the entranceway for safety concerns. We can certainly consider what the ARB would recommend. That's what our proposal is.
I would recommend at least doing a brick facade on the sides that are facing Washington Street and also Madison. And I would also recommend doing landscaping around that side as well. Probably like a tree and bush on the side that faces the fence.
So you're talking about the entrance back to the tobacco place? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I drew like a little picture, very similar to what we're doing with Tesla, as far as like having a taller tree closer to the structure and then small bushes in front of those trees. I just think it would break it up and it wouldn't be as noticeable. And then I think the brick facade on that side would be similar to the actual Verizon Wireless building that's already there. Instead of having the stucco, I don't think that even if you painted it, I just don't think that would look as pretty.
Yeah, your positioning is putting it out close to the road and closer to Washington Street, kind of in the mix where we do have the old bank, well, not the old bank building, but the old BB&T building, as well as the commercial buildings on the other side that are kind of residential looking. The brick veneer would definitely be better. It would definitely blend in more with the building. Also, the bollards, you haven't really talked about the bollards in here, but I think the bright yellow concrete ones would be better if we had some type of a detailed bollard as opposed to just the standard industrial commercial, since we're not really in an industrial area. Also, to try and blend this in with the housing, the flat roof wouldn't really be an appropriate style in there. Can you add some type of stick pitched roof on there with some shingles just to give it some type of housing detail to it?
I have to see what the manufacturer provides. I can definitely offer brick on all sides. Actually, it'd be probably easier for us just to put it on all sides.
Yeah, I don't.
The shingled roof, that's very, I'm not aware of any shelters we built with that type of roof structure. We are also willing to put some landscaping in on the, that road entrance side.
Yeah, the
Request that
landscaping would
what
be
we-
good.
I mean, the roof request is a little bit difficult. I'm not sure if that's really something we can do.
Yeah, I know we really wouldn't be serving any purpose, at least for the structure of the building or even for the weathering of the building. It would strictly be just a structural element to incorporate it into the housings that are in the area instead of just this shelter-looking building there. Also,
It's next to a brick flat roof building right now, so.
right, but that's kind of, it's been grandfathered into everything that's going on. It's also recessed back, so, I mean, you know, I'm trying to take it, this being put pretty much in the front square of the parking lot, which makes it right there closer on the road. And so, you know, I'm just trying to give you some suggestions. Also, you're showing a lot of attachments to the building. Do you know, are you going to be putting antennas up there?
There's no
Will-
antennas.
Okay, will there be a power box? There looks like there's some type of power junction box on it. Is there any way of that being painted a red color? I know you've painted that, some places have painted a red color to it to blend it into the brick
I
as
think that's a
opposed to.
possibility, yeah. We couldn't put the brick veneer on there, but we could match the paint.
Yeah, I wouldn't want a brick veneer on it, but just some type of red paint, very similar to how the McDonald's utilities and the doors on the, facing the road.
Sheets has the bollards in front of Sheets as well.
Yeah.
They're brown, that kind of match the,
So just our typical bollard, we just painted brown, would that be fine?
I think the intent is to subdue it. I guess your
Yeah.
other point was it's more of an industrial.
Yeah, I
commercial
didn't know
area.
if you still wanted to keep it a bright yellow to try and, you know, make it stand out or visible to any of the cars that are going to be driving in the parking lot.
Well, I
Since
think I
know
would
this
have
is in
to
the
check with
parking lot.
Verizon's, they have a they're very much of a bureaucracy themselves.
Yeah.
So there may be a concern with not having because it's a 24/7 operated facility, even though I was just by there, there's usually one vehicle in there, but there's some times that in the middle of the night, they have to be in there, so they probably like to have some visibility of the bollards. But I can check into that. But the brick veneer, we can definitely offer that, and the landscaping.
Mr. Chairman,
What-
some other-
What are your guys' opinion of, like I said, a little stick type of textured roof of some sort?
I do have,
Does that interest you guys, or does
Of
that?
course, I mean, the little shed that's already next to it has, I think, the like type of roof that you're hoping to have. So I do think that that would look prettier. And the only thing I was thinking is, in the one picture, they have like those metal, I don't know if they're antennas that are sticking up. I don't know if it'd be possible to put a roof if those would get in the way.
Yeah, see, I didn't know it was going to be
Well,
hung
we have,
off.
I think that is a GPS antenna. We need to have that for all our facilities, so we have a exact location for the operators.
you're talking about, they're showing 4 poles on the front of the building.
Yeah, where would those be positioned on the building? Do you know? Would they be on the street side, or would they be in the parking lot side?
Yeah, those are the GPS units. This is pretty much is how it's, this will be like the entrance to the tobacco place and behind here. So this will be facing the building itself, all this stuff.
Okay, and what type of attachments will be to the road-facing sides of the building? Do you know?
I don't think there would be anything right now. Plans should be in there.
I did want to bring that up. So you're showing on the backside, facing the backside of BB&T, some sort of structure or attachment to the building. So I was interested in looking at that.
Well, this is where I was hoping we could, the landscaping along here would
Yeah, just was questioning what that wasn't really shown in the examples that you gave, just trying to understand what that is.
I had our engineer look into that, and we are proposing something which I can send to Emily.
Is there any issue with painting it a similar color to the building?
That, I can't, I don't think it should be a problem.
Okay.
I'm not sure what that actually is.
So-
And maybe, that could be our, what they have as a, well, no, I'm not sure, I have to check.
And then it also looks like on the east side, or excuse me, the west side between the existing structure here, looks like some sort of stand-up structure for switches. See what I'm talking about here? I think we saw those with the Tesla thing where it seemed to be what it looks like is some sort of structure. So, Mr. Chairman, I think, the benefits of this building is it hides the existing structures, it hides in plain sight. And if you're walking back on Madison, driving through, it's brick, the existing building has a combination of I forget the architectural term, where it kind of has the high ceiling, then it has the roof line that you see to break up the massing, has the ventilation doors that give it the appearance of some windows. So I think there's some benefit to compatibility and having this building similarly disappear. So while the hip roof is gray is what they're showing in standing seam, maybe brown to match the existing building, having the veneer. Emily, I think I asked you, there's a site plan that's going to be required with this, right?
We took care of that with the planning commission.
Already? Okay, what was the nature of that? What was the required buffer yard there? Do we remember?
There's any setback requirement.
Yeah. I'd have to look back at that.
The thinking being is if the site plan was going to require some sort of landscaping, it looks like they can meet, there's about 11, 12 feet behind it. So there's some ability to, per Bond's suggestion, put some landscaping in around it to try to hide it in plain sight. The bollards, I can see some utility in having them the same color, but being interior, not necessarily on the perimeter, it seems as though you would have to drive by the entrance and look in to really see them. Probably more of the residents across the way that would have to look at them.
Yeah, but black or gray would probably be better if possible. right?
Gray, definitely, maybe not brown, where it kind of hides it, and I do see that you don't want employees backing into that building.
Yeah.
But, yes, ma'am.
There is a possibility, I have seen it in different ballards, especially on semi-residential areas where it mixes with commercials. They buy this tape and they just tape it around. It's reflective tape or stickers,
Okay.
actually. And they put it actually on the top.
Okay.
So that's, that along with kind of subduing it, but still keeping it a safety measure.
It's only visible at night when somebody is going to.
Backing in,
Yes,
backing lights, rear lights are hitting it.
when the light is hitting.
I agree with that. And then on the backside, any equipment on the backside, if our recommendation is to put some heavier landscaping, if there's a possibility to paint those boxes, more muted color. If you look at Piedmont Tire and Auto and some others, they have a lot of outside utility boxes, but they've been able to paint them. Tesla, I think, had some issues when we looked at it, because they said there seemed to be some issues with painting based on some of the electrical currents that they were dealing with. But if there's an opportunity, again, hiding in plain sight, being compatible with their neighbors.
I would try to paint the roof and the boxes and anything. I would try to paint them all the same color so it
Match.
matches and it's not different.
Well, the roof might be best if it had an accent color, definitely one that would match the Verizon building. And I don't know what the color is on the Verizon building.
Brown.
It's on page, yeah, when you look at the page, where'd you have it here? I mean, it was, I think, a review of that prior building, I thought
17.
was pretty clever. Because
Yeah.
it did have that architectural feature to kind of break up the massing. I can't remember the architectural term where you bring the front of the building up higher than the roof. Do you know what we're referring to in the graphic? The gutters are painted brown. Yeah, that's what we're talking about, how here it breaks it up. You have somewhat of a peak roof in the back. You have this feature along the front. So,
I do have some brick samples. Leave those with you.
do you have them with you? Does anybody want to look at the brick samples?
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
I sent some to Emily, I think.
Good evening, what's up, bud?
Good, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry, I had a meeting I couldn't get out of.
On the second page, that's when it matches. Building is this.
The mid one on the second? We're reviewing the
copies.
Is what
Verizon.
matches the
Building they're wanting to
Verizon
put
The
up.
building right now,
Outdoor
yeah.
Structure,
Right.
where discussion is try to, how to get it to match or be compatible with the existing structure.
Is that this?
Any chance the chain link goes away?
Red.
That would be good, but I don't think
It's
that's going to happen.
established.
Yeah.
so.
This brick seems brighter to me than the building. Like this brick looks more like Foster's building. The bottom one to me looks more like Verizon.
Yeah, I was just,
I think it's probably, it's okay with the ARB is if we support the brick. Photocopies of this always change tints, so maybe if we just give Emily the discretion to, whatever they submit, just go out there and try to
Yeah,
match it.
as close as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you for providing these. Just- Elena's doing-
actually, I have in my car the actual samples, so I
Okay.
can bring those in and lug them in once we're done here.
Or we could bring them to that building, take a look at them next to it, because I don't think we can pick it from the picture.
Are we comfortable with having Emily?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you want to see that? And Bond, you had talked about landscaping. What did you have in mind?
So, with the, you can come
Okay.
if you need to, but, if this is the structure and this is the fence, having like taller trees closer to the building and then smaller bushes closer to the fence.
I think our problem out here is I'm not sure we have room for any shrubs out there. We were proposing along the road, that road.
You're talking about this road,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking also back here. So trees,
Yeah, I'm
And
fine
here,
with that.
too.
It's just out front here on Madison, there's this room, there's utilities in the right of way. It's just not, I'm not sure we have enough room to put shrub. We could offer to have some change.
Bond, were you thinking more evergreens, deciduous, evergreen shrubs?
probably evergreen shrubs and then smaller bushes.
This is just that corner.
I was going to question. Emily, I'm sorry if I cut you off earlier, but, so this site plan doesn't necessarily have landscaping. Did Tobaccology have to have landscaping on their side?
I'll have to go back and look at it, but I don't think on that side of it they
That
did.
side, it was more the residential side? Okay. That was the thing too, if they're having to do it, then there's a potential to screen it from the west.
Well, there were kind of like a lot of requests posed to you. Do you want to reach back and see what you can do and come back next month? Or,
Yeah, I mean, all the requests for landscaping and brick veneer are, and the painting, that's fine. The roof will be, I don't think that's gonna be something that we can really do. I think that's gonna be a problem with our manufacturer and what we use for the facility for, so. But I can certainly offer all the brick veneer and the shrubbery.
how about the suggestion of the,
And the bollards and painting the bollards with the reflective tape.
Can you paint the roof
the
brown?
roof edging being
Oh,
brown?
the edging, yes, yeah. Make everything match what the building is, yeah, yeah.
There's other requests of looking at painting, possibility of painting some of the equipment, outside equipment on the,
Yeah, that's what I was, yeah.
on the south side of the building.
Yeah, I can see what we can do there.
Brian, were you thinking vegetation along the entirety of that property boundary, or just behind this structure?
The whole corner.
Okay.
I can
yeah.
definitely look into that. My only concern was I'm not sure we have enough room out on Market Street with the right-of-way and where Verizon's property line ends and the right-of-way begins. There may not be space, but I can certainly look into that.
And,
We can
and what,
certainly run it along the other side of the road, or the entrance to the tobacco.
and what size shrubbery are we looking? We're not trying to cover the whole height of the building, right? Are we looking for
Just to
something
kind of,
6 feet, or what kind of height?
maybe 4 feet for the trees, and then 1.5 feet for the shrubs, because they will grow.
Yeah, because what I would like to see the next time around would be what the layout is, what type of trees they were going to use and stuff like that, so you know, some type of shrubbery.
And
Plant.
mulching.
So, you know, I don't know. That's typically what goes with a site plan, right? Got you giggling over there. Just want to make sure I'm not requesting anything out of
No.
bounds. So.
Nope, we're good.
We could always approve with the conditions and just make sure that we make them very specific.
Yeah, since we would be going blind with whatever the shrubbery layout would be, that would be, of course, a clause of an agreement with the town manager and planner and all that stuff.
I guess with that then, the trees, the evergreen trees, evergreen shrubs,
No, evergreen shrubs and then small bushes, small shrubs in front of them.
and when you said 6 feet, what were you referring to?
No, he mentioned 6 feet, I said 4.
Sorry. That's why I asked, I'm sorry. We do have, we have the plant list, I think, in the ordinance, if we wanted to have them select from the, I guess, plant list that we have in the ordinance.
Let's see.
The guidelines in the back of the zoning ordinance. There's a number of recommended, I believe, evergreen types. Oh, I'm sorry, I have it right here, I can see it.
58, 1816. Page 107.
What are your thoughts on this?
Seems like you guys haven't much figured out in terms of like how you want it to look, or it's a matter of agree with, being able to get them to agree with what we want, I guess, right?
Well, it was reasonable. Looking at the ordinance on page 99 of the zoning ordinance, it has evergreen shrubs. It also lists canopy trees and evergreen trees. Evergreen trees, we have cedar, pine, spruce, holly, arborvitae, Foster's holly. And then shrubs, English yew, azalea, holly, Japanese yew, rhododendron, and viburnum. So unless there's a specific preference, it seems like there's a couple of options that are available. I think American holly is probably more dense, so is the other ones. So.
Perhaps we could give them the specific ones after. We could give it to Emily.
Based on the plant list and the ordinance? Okay.
Yes, sir, I was looking at 58-17.
We could also
12.
provide maybe some pictures of something similar.
I think the intent is to try to create an opaque screen, correct?
Yeah, I don't think this one really needs to be too opaque, though, just to break it up.
Yeah.
not like the Tesla one, which needs to be opaque. Okay, I think
want me
we've
to try
kind
to
of
make a
ironed this
motion?
out. I guess we can try to make a motion on this.
Okay. I make a motion to approve ZP number 2018-034 with the condition that they use a brick veneer facade to match the existing Verizon building behind it, that they paint the bollards and electrical exterior boxes brown, as well as the roof on the structure, and that they include a landscaping plan around the corner of the building, and we can provide a diagram as well as a list of acceptable plants that they can use in their landscaping plan. Is there anything else?
Landscaping plan that is, can be negotiated and approved by the town planner, and the brick veneer can be approved by the town planner.
The landscaping plan and the brick veneer will be approved by Emily, the town planner. Anything else?
I think that narrowed it down. Marshawn?
Yeah, any concerns by,
No, I think that should be fine.
thank you for looking into it.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor. Do I got a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Last chance for discussion. Anybody who have any concerns? Let's put it all for a vote then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for coming and talking with us. Okay, we move on to agenda item 5.2, Foster's Grill patio lighting.
So this application was tabled at our last meeting until the applicant, Mike Cerny, could come speak to the board and provide a diagram of the layout of the guide wires and the lights. In front of you on the dais, you have this little packet. It provides the diagram requested, and I'll turn it over to Mike to answer any questions that you guys might have regarding the color of the column that'll be added and the anchor points.
Evening,
Hello.
everybody. Hi, Mike Cerny, President of Foster's Grill. What I'm
Good
trying
evening.
to accomplish, do you want me to give a little description? I'd like to give some visibility to our outdoor seating area. We would only be covering the outdoor seating area. In the one diagram, I don't know if it's labeled for you, but the one that is drawn out here, we're using 16 gauge wire. They'll be anchored by eye bolts. There's one column that will be added on the corner, as you can see there. It'll match the current patio perimeter fencing color, which is like a blackish brown, is the best way I can describe it. And I'm open for any questions you have.
This is a metal pole, right? It's not vinyl or anything?
Correct.
Okay.
And as you can see in there, it's bolted to the concrete at the bottom. 9 feet, 4-inch square column.
There's going to be an edge wire that attaches to this column and goes back to the building.
Correct.
Where's that going to attach to the building?
The elevator tower, I believe.
Well, no, I'm on the
those are
opposite.
yeah, on the opposite side.
end. So, is this picture included?
Yeah, as I say, if you look at the second picture behind that diagram, if you're familiar, you can see it faintly, but there's a column that runs right here. It looks like that's the column that's going to attach.
On the left-hand side, there's a column that sticks out. It doesn't butt out as far as the stairwell column. That area, that's why I'm adding a column, and that eye bolt for that last one will go attached to it.
This is the portico in front of Haymarket Bicycles, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that, that breezeway where they store all their bikes underneath the arches. That's where this is attaching to.
Correct.
But you're attaching it directly to the brick wall. You're not going under any,
I'm not going under the archway.
okay.
And it sounded like last month there was a question, was it going in, was it being bolted to the fascia board underneath the second story?
Yeah,
What this looks like
but it
is
looks
you're
like it's all going
bolting
the
it
other
onto
way.
into the tower, the
Correct.
elevator tower.
Correct.
And the lights
Yeah.
are attaching to the cables.
Correct.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for coming back. I think
Yep,
that's,
I think that's all we needed. Anybody else have any questions? Okay,
I make a motion to approve ZP number 2018-038.
I second.
okay, you got a motion and second. Last chance for any type of comments. Put up for vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you all.
Thank
Okay.
you.
One quick
Yeah.
question. Does this have to go to the council, or can I start work?
I think
What's
you
the
can
process?
start now.
I'll follow up with you tomorrow, but
Okay.
you can start work after I issue the approval letter to take to the county for building permit.
Okay. All right. Have a good evening,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Emma.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on to COA number 3 in the agenda, the storage shed on St. Paul Drive.
Okay, so this is zoning permit 2018-044 for 6836 St. Paul Drive. The applicant, William Lake, is looking to apply for a certificate of appropriateness for a resin-based storage shed. If you flip to page 37 and 39, you can get an idea of where the placement of the shed will go and the style of shed. Looking back in recent years, it does not appear that this is a typical application we've had before for resin-based sheds. So I just ask that the ARB look at the materials, colors, and visibility and give their thorough review, as you've done in the past with other applications, about the durability, maintenance concerns, etc. So I'm going to invite the applicant to come up and address any discussion questions that you may have.
I'm
Good
William
evening.
Blake, 6836 St. Paul Drive. Do I have any questions of me?
I see there's a privacy fence back there. Do you know what height that is?
It's not that tall.
So about
It's a tall,
6 feet?
Yeah, good 6 feet on that one, and the one on the side is a bigger fence.
Right, the very back one is the one I was looking at. That,
Yeah, and the one on the back is outside of the Green Hill Crossing subdivision.
That's Madison Street. It's Madison Street behind you, right?
right. Yeah, because I'm assuming that's where we're going to be sheltering a piece of it. I'm looking for the height of this.
This one says 8 feet, back on the 39. External dimensions, internal dimensions 7.9, and exterior 8.4.
So that'll be to the peak, right?
The 8 foot is to the peak.
I'm sorry, I can't read dimensions. 8 feet
4
width,
inches,
10 foot depth, 8 foot, 7 inches in height.
7 inches, okay.
So it's about a, like, two
Yeah,
and a
so
half feet
like if
above
if this is like a 6 foot and that's an 8 foot, or is this a 4 foot, 6 foot? If this is 8 foot, then you're pretty much just seeing the tip of it, you know what I mean?
That's 4 feet.
That's 4 feet.
That's 6
so
feet.
6 feet. Are you going to put this on cinder blocks, or are you going to put on a slab?
It'll be cinder blocks.
Cinder blocks.
And I'll have a wooden base with landscape timbers, built out landscape or
Okay, but
pressure-treated wood.
you're not looking at jacking it up, you know, any higher than maybe whatever the height of one cinder
As far
block
as
is,
I can
right?
get it level. Yeah, not very much at all.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
And
Any concerns about the colors or?
in terms of materials, how have you guys reviewed these in the past?
everyone has been on a case-by-case basis.
What is the siding on your house? Is it vinyl?
It's vinyl, I've got a brick front, and the sides are vinyl, and the back. The color of the shed is basically the color of the vinyl on my house, which is vanilla.
Mhm.
So you said the side and rear is vinyl siding?
Yeah. And I see you've already gone through the ARC for Green Hill Crossing and got approvals there.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I had to join the ARC to get that.
So am I reading this correctly, you're almost 187 feet from the front of your lot line to the rear of your lot line?
Maybe, I'm not positive.
I guess in thinking this is a fairly elongated lot
Yeah.
at the rear. Emily had asked us to look at visibility. It's, 12-foot side yard. So in terms of visibility, you can probably see it if you're standing in the side yard, but if you're passing by, I'm not sure. I guess it's technically you can see it from a public street, but.
As you go by my house, the back of my house, sort of basically goes up a little bit to the house, then goes up the hill a little bit. And then there's a plateau at the top back here at that corner.
Okay.
And there's pine trees all along the back property line. The plateau is on that back corner and it's sort of level, but that's why I say it's not going to require a lot of digging or putting concrete up or cinder blocks.
But are you saying is that it sits a little bit higher than your front yard?
Oh, a lot higher.
Okay.
It's got quite a slope to it.
I think that if his HOA approved it, I'm okay with it. And I think that the vinyl siding is probably similar to the resin shed. And he's saying that the color matches the closest that it can to the house, so.
yeah. I agree. Any questions? We done, Marshawn?
No,
Okay.
I've asked my
Okay.
questions.
Then I guess we're all set.
Okay.
Put that up for a motion.
I make a motion to approve ZP number 2018-044.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Last chance for discussion. Let's put it up for vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
Yep.
No.
Wish you success on leveling it off.
Virginia Clay.
And the Virginia clay, yeah. As long as you have a pickaxe, you're probably good. Okay, moving on to ZP 2018-045.
I'm hoping this one is an easy one. It's closing in a fence to next door neighbors already have pre-existing fences. It's for 6933 Jockey Club Lane. So if you flip to page 64, this is what the existing fences look like in the neighbors' yards. If you flip to 67, you can get an idea from the little sketch here of where exactly the fence will be added in. So it's really just closing in the other portions that the neighbors have not already fenced off. So I'll ask the applicant to come up and answer any questions you may have.
Unrelated to this, you were smart to wait for your neighbors to build the fence.
Right, less
Or
cost.
shall we say, welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah, welcome to the
and we hope
neighborhood.
This is very easy for
It's,
you.
It's my understanding through speaking with a lot of people that this property has, an understatement would be to say a checkered past with this town. So we moved in and bought the property in June, so we're very excited to be here with my wife and our two young boys, so welcome.
Thank you.
Cool. Welcome.
Welcome to you.
Yeah, I'm assuming same style, same natural coloring, right? You don't plan on, you're just going to let it?
Everything's uniform.
Then I think that's probably as easy as it gets.
Okay.
And it commits to that in the items.
I make a motion to approve Certificate of Appropriateness, ZP number 2018-045.
Second.
Got a motion and second. Last chance for discussion. Put it up. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You're good to go.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Yeah. I wish you success. Okay, zoning permit 2018-46.
So this is the residential demolition application for 14801 Washington Street. I'd like to start off and say that by no means was staff recommending any decision tonight on the application. However, in the past, with the previous demolition application we worked on in the winter time, we presented it to the board, and then the board discussed with the applicant additional material, details, information that you guys wanted to receive, such as a structural engineer's report, additional historic information, photo documentation, building plans, landscaping plans. So all of these details were requested by the board. Based on how our guidelines are laid out, these are all things that you guys can request. So this application's before you tonight so that you can begin looking at all the details, looking at the condition of the building inspector's report, and then requesting additional information as necessary so that you guys can make an educated determination and you can do your due diligence in assessing everything that there is. So with that, you have my staff report here that goes through a very brief summary of the inspection report. I certainly hope that everyone had time to look at it, or based on tonight's discussion, you will go back and look at it in more detail. Based on the other information that you request, I think we also need to consider how it all plays into the future use of the property. So it is zoned B1. If this residential home were to be torn down, the applicant or future property owner cannot go back in and build another residential home. That's a non-conforming use as it stands today. Once it is removed, it cannot be rebuilt. So they would have to come in and do a new building development with a B1 use, and that would have to follow our zoning ordinance as it stands at the time of the building plan. If the Architectural Review Board wishes to request a landscape plan, you can also do so. This will be more of a scorched earth approach, so the building will come down, and then you can just, suggest, request, require that you have a landscape plan put in place. I'm not aware of any that the town has done in recent years. The one that was completed in the winter time frame here on Jefferson Street, down near the railroad tracks, we did require that the applicant come back to us with a building plan. The structure still stands today because we issued a building permit only on the condition that they have to bring me an approved building permit from Prince William County, at which time we will then give them the proper documents to go back and get a demolition permit from the county. So until they can get that to me, they will not be taking the actual structure down. That is why it's still standing months after the decision. They are currently in a site plan phase, so they chose the route of doing, obviously, the building plan. So with that, I will, let me also point out, actually, and Marchant has the documents. I apologize for not getting a copy to everybody. I can make a copy, but there was a historic survey of the property. It was built in 1909. It's known as the Jordan House in your historic guidelines you have. So in the table of historic structures, it's listed as the Jordan House. I believe there are many who know a lot more of the history than I do, but the Jordan family was a prominent family here in town, owned a store, had a big to-do in the town. So if you want to know more of that history, you can certainly request it from me, and I will compile a report to share with you guys. So I'll start with, do you guys as the board have any questions for me before we start the discussion with the applicant?
At
Okay.
this point, no, I think we're good.
Let me invite up the applicant then, Ms. Dottie.
Thank you for your consideration. I just would like to start by saying so many of the things that I heard said tonight just shocked me because I've lived in a Haymarket almost 48 years, and I have watched many, many more beautiful homes than mine come down. Pink Victorians, and if anyone has read The History of Our Town, which was written by Sarah Turner, you would know that the very beginning of it says, she called me Dorothy Leonard, but I'm Dottie Leonard. I was never called Dorothy, just plain Dottie, I used to say in school. Dorothy Leonard, former councilwoman, Mrs. Leonard, a preservationist, initiated the Haymarket Historic Commission. While I was on the town council, I pushed for us to have a historic commission, the historic overlay. I am a preservationist. I actually bought that house to preserve it. I loved it inside. Outside, it was horrible. Everybody thought it was a farmhouse. And just one little respectful correction there to Miss Emily. There's more than one Jordan house. The main Jordan's, the Maud Jordan's house was torn down. It was between me and Mr. Watts's house. And I got that information from Sarah Turner, who was here and went to school, and Maud Jordan was one of her teachers. When I bought the house, it had been, ever since I had moved into Haymarket, a stucco house. After I had it for about 15 years, I started noticing that there was moisture between the walls. And to make another correction, I'm going to bounce around because I'm going to try to address everything that the people who spoke said. One of the things that was said was, and I'm 70, so bear with me. I'm trying to remember every single thing they said. One of the things that they said was that the house was so beautiful and they didn't want that beautiful historic house torn down. I agree. It did look beautiful when I bought it, and I spent over $150,000, probably close to $200,000, a lot in the kitchen, refinishing hardwood floors. It had been a rental property. It had virtually no landscaping except oversized boxwood bushes that hadn't been touched or trimmed in probably 40 years. They covered up the whole front of the house. I used to be in the women's club, and we'd meet across the street at the Baptist church, and that was the most insignificant property in town. Nobody thought of anything about 14801 Washington Street. Just like I did on the house I bought on Madison Street, I put in a driveway, I landscaped 6761 Madison Street. People who came to look at it, one of our former council members lived in that house. They said, that backyard is so beautiful. I bought it for that backyard. So believe me, I put in on this property 3 magnolias, 3 crepe myrtles, 3 Leland cypress. And I mixed it with these other trees that were old and wonderful, and I thought they'd be there. They were all eaten up with carpenter ants and termites. And for the last 7 or so years, one at a time, and this spring, 6 of them came down in one day. And one of them hit the bay window of my tea room. And by the way, originally I had planned to make this a bed and breakfast, but I lost my husband 8 years ago. And then when I discovered all of the issues with termites eating my foundation, with termites hollowing out the trees, I had no idea. Everything looked pretty. It still had green leaves on it. But when those 6 trees came down and the one crashed onto the bay window, it actually broke up the floor. And he has a picture where, and I still had no idea until just a few weeks ago. I knew about the termites a year ago. And I understand that what caused the termite issue was that they had stuccoed over a wooden house. It was a wooden Victorian house, but to look at it from the street, it looks like a farmhouse. It was actually a wooden Victorian. I did have an architect come in and go through the house. He served on the town ARB and advised us several years ago. He came in and said, this is definitely a Victorian house inside, but they had enclosed a porch and they didn't properly stucco the outside. So they left space between it where it gathered more moisture and caused the walls to crack. Then when Haymarket Station went in, they blasted with dynamite all the basements in that neighborhood. And I started noticing a settling again. A house that's been settled for 100 and some years isn't going to settle some more. It was the blasting that they had done. And not everybody knows that Haymarket has a lot of rock under its foundation. So when you dynamite rocks, and that's why they were dynamiting for those basements, because they were trying to bust up the rocks. Well, when you bust up the rock one place, it's going to shake you another place. And they came in and said, I'm a friend of the mayor, and I want to inspect your house. And at that time, I had a very poor relationship with that mayor, as I have with Mr. Snyderman, and I would appreciate it if he can't be fair and just to me if he just recused himself from voting on my property. But I've been through everything. If anybody ever wants to hear it, I'll put it in a book or I'll tell it to you individually. The things that have been done to me shouldn't be done to a living soul. I've been encroached on 4 sides. I've had the front of my property taken, and they used the front of my property, and I'm a commercial realtor myself. I know the law. You're supposed to get a nearby property to use as a comp in paying someone for their property. They used Route 1 in Woodbridge, and you were a part of that. Route 1 in Woodbridge as a comp. I couldn't believe it, and gave me a value of $3,000 or $3,000 and something that they would pay me for taking 14 feet by 100 and some feet of the front of my property. I don't understand all this stuff, but I'm here to tell you I care about Haymarket. I'm a part of the reason we have the historic overlay. This is a house that has, beyond my control, and all these years that I lived here, I thought it was stucco, a true stucco home. It is stuccoed over wood with moisture pockets between it. So that with the tree falling, a tree has fallen twice on the property, tree has fallen on the back roof. So there are certain rooms that the ceiling is coming in. And what happened in the one where the tea room is, when the tree fell, it broke I didn't notice, because, you know, you see a little crack in a 100-year-old floor. I didn't pay attention to it, but there was a seam, and until the inspector pointed it out to me, I had not noticed. That explains why when there was a beating hailstorm coming from the west, it went in between my two floors. My top floor has a perfectly dry ceiling, but the bay window being broken off and all the way down to the floor let this ice and hail beat in, and at the same time the hail beat the front off of my van hood. So I also heard people say I needed to get a structural engineer like everyone else has. No one has that I'm aware of. Maybe the firehouse did, but I did use the very same person who inspected the Jefferson Old Carolina Road property. I called them and got his name and used that very person. So it sounds a little bit like what you hear going on in our government today, that we'll just come up with a whole bunch of things. Before Haymarket Station got built, I stood before the council then to get permission to downzone commercial property. I knew the neighbors over there didn't want a shopping center. Neither did I. And I purposely downzoned so that the Haymarket Station people could live there. I'm happy to have them as a neighbor. I never thought they'd come and speak against me. But they knew when they moved there, because the builder told me, they told each one of them, that property next door to you is B1. And I know some of the people, the original owners, they were told that's B1 property. She wants to do a bed and breakfast, but they were told up front that I was a different zoning from the residential. And they want to know what I want to do. I have made it no secret that I only want one level of commercial, and it's going to be a family strollable restaurant, a beauty shop that my own kids are going to own. My son, the restaurant, my daughter, a beauty shop. She owned a beauty shop here in town when she was 19 years old. It was in the back of what's a patch of grass out there that this town paid $200,000 to have torn down. So I'm just saying, I've been around long enough that there's not much I don't know, and not many people who did it that I don't know about it. So I'm asking you to understand where I'm coming from. You can go look at my house on Madison Street, where I lived for 30 years. I left it better than I found it. You can look at this property that everybody thinks is so wonderful now that nobody thought anything of before I bought it. I'm leaving it better than I found it, but it's beyond my control at this point. It's currently assessed at $99,000. How much is it worth? Is it worth me spending $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 and still having nothing? It isn't worth it. I'm alone. I want to have my kids be involved. I want to leave it beautifully landscaped, just like it is now before the storms. So I'm counting on you and your wisdom to know that this is not a significant property. There are much more significant ones that were torn down. Mr. Blight's house, that was the Maud Jordan house, was destroyed. A street was named after Mr. Blight. He was important enough, but his house went down like that by the fire department. So, and I know that no one thinks I'm significant, so you're not going to save it because it's the Leonard house. And the Jordans that everybody thinks are so important are not the ones that lived in that house. If I think of more, I'll be back. Thank you for listening. One more thing. One more very important thing. Very, very important thing. I served on the Planning Commission and the ARB, was liaison to the ARB, when the people who owned the block across the street came in to get permission to build a beautiful Alexandria-style historic townhouse community. They were turned down by none other than Mr. Weir. So go take a look at it. It looks like crap because it's been sitting there all these years because somebody didn't have enough wisdom to say, let's take this down and make something better and make our town look better. Thank you.
So, where do we begin? Do you want to start off with anything more, Sean?
Sure. So, if the review board would indulge me, I had a couple of observations that came to mind when reviewing these materials. Also reviewed the relevant documents. I had some recommendations as well. So I think first, I think independent of this application, looking through the inspection report and understanding that this is someone living there, I think while it has no bearing on, I think, our decision, there are a number of resources, community resources in the community. With winter coming, where this inspection report identifies issues, I believe there's enough resources and talent in the town, there's enough resources in the community that if there's an immediate need by this homeowner to get someone in there and temporarily fix some of these conditions against the weather, again, independent of this, those are resources that are available and a number of individuals that can assist, again, if that's a need that wants to be considered. I think this also talks about the challenge with maintaining and establishing historic districts. We have a number of good examples of commercial or residential structures that have been converted to commercial. However, I think this demonstrates a situation where recognizing the value, but also the challenges that, and this is in the comprehensive plan as well, that we as a board perhaps recommend to the town council that they look in what resources are available for owners and people that want to redevelop the property. By resources, I mean low interest loans, tax deferral, redevelopment districts. If you're redeveloping, waiving site development plans to reduce development costs. One of the gentlemen that owned a structure in town, his first thing, he says, it's more valuable to me if those buildings are down. But if you look at the development costs, developing site plans, putting in all the ordinance requirements, if you defer that cost, is there an ability to do that? And also base density sometimes. How do you incentivize people to do that? So I think as we move forward, those are things that I think as a council or as an ARB we can look into to help folks be able to maintain and repurpose these properties. That being said, looking at our ARB guidelines, it does say we are guided by the Town of Haymarket, the laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and the Town Haymarket Comprehensive Plan. When looking at, so the state code, is my familiarity with it, establishes an individual's right to tear down a property or demolish a property. It does establish the local jurisdiction's ability to review those plans. And so there's a remedy beyond that local jurisdiction or local review. Moving into the comprehensive plan and those types of things, we do talk in the community design policies, wherever possible, existing residential buildings should be converted to commercial use rather than new buildings constructed. This is a structure that is listed specifically on the list as a historic structure, designated historic and worthy of preservation in the Town of Haymarket. In my experience, and most people when use the term historic, they have two responses. Either A, it has to be a designated state or national property or structure, or it's a subjective exercise where someone looks at a house and says, I don't really like that architectural style, I don't like the condition it's in, it's ugly, and they tend to make their basis on that. But the comp plan anticipates that and says two things. One, Doesn't have to have a state or federal designation. It has local significance. It is worthy of preservation. It does say, however, not attaining inclusion in the state or national registers does not negate the importance. These are resources that are fragile. Once they're destroyed, the loss is permanent. When it talks about telling the story, it says these structures are important because they contribute to Haymarket's sense of place and provide a tactile lessons on the cultural influences of people who built the community. So a lot of us focus on the architecture and what the architecture means and what it represents or who someone's associated with it. But in reading this sense of place and tactile lessons, it's how the town has developed over time. When you look at this end of town, the church was developed in the late 19th century. That was how people worshipped, and that's how they exhibited through architecture. You look at the Lewis homes, the bungalow homes, that was a particular style of the mid-20th century. Pace West, or the former Gainesville District School, QBE now. If you look at that building, there's a series of additions that indicate processes over time. And in regards to this property is a particular architectural style of the early 1900s. Originally wood, stucco. There was a house you guys looked at on Madison that had that same issue where it was stucco over wood, and they've since pulled that off. In this case, this house, whether it was intended or not, when the property around, then you go into the 21st century. You see Green Hill Crossing in 20th, more suburban. You see Haymarket Station, more neoclassical, more recent. And then behind the Lewis homes, you see, what is that? Community. What's the one right for? Villages of Haymarket. Is that correct? So nonetheless, specific to this property, again, if it wasn't intended or not, what it did do was, I think, a clever thing, which is keep that resource or that structure, and then behind it blend the neo-traditional community with compatible architecture. So it tells both stories. You can drive by and look and say, that's an early established use and pattern in the late 19th, early 20th century. This is a pattern that was more indicative of it. So it tells the story. And as we begin to remove these resources, I believe we begin to unravel that story visually and architecturally. So when people say, what is the importance of these buildings, that's how I read the policies and how we've looked at them today. A number of action strategies that talk about better improving our promoting, looking at research projects, looking at these resources that I had talked to. So then moving to, and I'm sorry I'm long-winded because I have put some time into thinking about this. First of all, looking at the zoning ordinance, which also governs our review, looking at the definitions of historic buildings. B1 district, this was already referred to, but B1 says the intent, recognizing the economic value of the existing historical areas shall be furthered the intent of the district to encourage the retention and rehabilitation of structures and uses in the district that have historic and/or architectural significance. Moving into our specific guidelines, and again, I think there's some distinction to be made. The fact that this is a listed structure changes how the ARB, in my mind, reviews requests. This is somewhat different than Jefferson Street. I don't believe that structure was specifically listed as a structure. Also talks about protection against destruction or encroachment. Talks about, specifically in the case of buildings to be raised, the primary consideration will be the extent to which its continued existence would tend to protect irreplaceable historic places and preserve the general historic atmosphere of the town. I believe that statement lends into my earlier points about what it means to try to retain or repurpose these things. It does say that there's a right of appeal and the owner has the ability to look in other abilities to address blight. But it does say specifically no owner shall allow it to deteriorate to the point where it is not economically feasible to repair it or restore it. Moving to our design guidelines, it does talk to special instructions. Applicants providing a written statement, describe the alternatives and why or such are not feasible. And then there was the other thing about receiving a building permit. So that all being said, I am not one to say that it's practical in all instances to keep everything. I don't think that's realistic. I don't think that's practical. But given the limited scope of these structures listed in the plan, I do believe they require additional review and consideration. Some challenges I have accepting this application in its current form, when the applicant states or when the report states that it's not, they do not wish to make the choice. I think it's hard for us to accept it on the choice. When it's stated that there's a potential to rebuild a house with the thought that you rebuild it architecturally and recreate that aesthetic, I don't see, because you're not allowed to rebuild single-family homes in B1, there's not an opportunity to do that. When we talk about the feasibility, that is a hard thing to establish, because you would have to be very nosy and very invasive in someone's personal finances to be able to understand that. But why it would be important is the litmus test. Everyone else can come in and say, I don't want to look at it. So while it seems insensitive not to look at the specific finances of a particular person, I think we would have to know better what that is if we were to accept that and then be defended from some other property owner in town that says, I want a similar consideration. Looking into the inspection report, there's no doubt, there's issues, there's deterioration, there's infestation, but it does say specifically on the introduction, page 78, says, the inspection does not represent a technically exhaustive evaluation and does not include any engineering, geological, design, environmental, biological, health-related, or code compliance evaluations of the building or the property. These seem to be the other components that are generally necessary to approve these buildings to come down. So that being said, I believe that we do have, again, where it seems insensitive that we're not looking at the situation. I believe what these structures believe to the balance of the town, the materials that we're being asked with which to basis our decision, I believe it's not ready for prime time. I do want to say that there's an opportunity. Ms. Leonard and I did meet and talk about some of her visions for the property, and I do believe we have enough talent and enough resources to work with her to figure out a way to not only realize her dream, but to figure out a way to make it a viable alternative to try to incorporate it. And again, I'm not assuming that this is something she wants to tear down tomorrow. So again, the appearance of being insensitive, I think there is some opportunities for us to try to address that, help a neighbor address the immediate safety and health concerns presented by this report. I wouldn't want anyone living in this sort of situation. So thank you for indulging me on that. You can tell I spent a lot of time thinking about it. I'm not unaware of the other decisions that the ARB has made in the town, and I do feel we have some standing to give these some thought. So thank you.
Anybody else have any comments? Okay. I was thinking about this, and I was just looking at the history of how the ARB came about. Like Dottie was saying, she was prominent in getting a historic overlay of this place, putting rules in place for us to scrutinize what people consider historic, what they don't. And there is documentation on this house that says there is historic value to the town, which makes it very difficult to make a true decision on tearing it down. Dottie was on the ARB. She pretty much was the founding member of the ARB back in '94. She was on the council. She put a lot of this stuff in place. She admits that she's a real estate agent and that she's been in the town for 48 years. I'm assuming she owned the house for a lot of this port. And being a steward of that property, I think she understands the acceptance to upkeep it and to, the financial burdens that are associated to owning the property. I don't exactly want to be unsympathetic here, but the house becoming in this far of a dismay that she's trying to report here just kind of questions me to what's going on here. We got a historic, something that has value to the town, and I agree with Marchant. We should try to negotiate, trying to keep this property available by looking at alternatives as opposed to initially just saying, hey, why don't we just greenfield it and start from scratch? We do need to do the structural analysis. We do need to do our due diligence to get this going, I feel, just off of the regulation and the responsibility of the ARB that Dottie has put in place. She can't be an exception because she's been a prominent participant in all this. She's got to go through the scrutinization that she's put out for everybody else to go through.
Are you saying you're punishing me because I actually tried to save that house?
No, I'm not punishing
I've only
you.
owned it for about 17 years. I didn't own it all that time. And my husband was dying 10 years of that 17 years. And I was practically dying for the last 5 years. So put yourself in my place a little bit. I went in there and did my best to make it a show place and found out that I was trying to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. And to bring up the subject that incorporate it into commercial, every person that I've talked to who would be willing to assist in financially in going into creating the 4-story, 3 floors of residential with me says, I don't want to touch it if that house is in it. So what you're doing is taking away my ability to use my property to the best of my ability. And it was B1 when I bought it. And we can dance all the way to court because I know Virginia law. You cannot do that. I never put it on a historic register, and there's been so much things said that weren't totally accurate. Again, what we're hearing going on in government today, people toss out something. When Haymarket Station was going to be built, the room was full of people coming to speak against it. Haymarket Station was going to ruin Haymarket. They're the most beautiful houses in town. They said it was going to make everything flood in Green Hill Crossing. It didn't. The master home of Green Hill Crossing was torn down. Like I said, the Jordan house that was the magnificent house was torn down. I actually tried to save something because I believed in what I was doing. But this is beyond repair. And you can't take a straw house and build bricks around it and make it sound and nice. It just isn't possible. I'm from a long line of construction people. I know.
What else did the board have to say?
Well,
I just don't have any words right this
nothing for you?
I think it was very short time for me to read this throughout and have my weighed opinion on it for today. It was too much information for me. The attachment that I have every time I see when I came into town 17 years ago.
Is this being picked up?
No.
Yep.
We have to speak a little bit louder to record it in there.
One thing, if I may, just real quick, if you guys have certain documents, information, research that you would like for me to compile, please feel free in your discussion to let me know, give me some tasks to work on for that, or items to take back to the applicant and work with the applicant directly and have them produce certain materials.
Dottie, would you feel comfortable with me coming in your house to see it? Okay.
We need to at least move forward.
No one else though. And I don't understand that really. like I said, I've been here 48 years. I've watched houses go down, and no one on any board ever went in and inspected it. Never.
I think that for the houses,
Invasion of my privacy, really.
if you don't feel comfortable, I won't. The houses, I think, along the railroad track, I think the ARB did go into
We did go into
before,
those.
before approving. And I think that's what made your decision. I wasn't able to go, but I think that's what made your decision to
And
approve.
I think part of that experience was for the board members and myself to get an idea of what the architecture was like back then when it was built, and how the house kind of grew over the years, what changes were made, and just have that opportunity to see the different styles and the different features in the home. It certainly was very eye-opening and interesting for us just to even see the remnants of wallpaper that were left. So for us, it was a very kind of learning experience type of visit to the home. So it was all about the architectural style and how the inside bones were built of the home.
I think what the review I got from it was more about how bad of condition
Yes,
it was
that
in.
also, the condition also played into it, but
Yeah, that's all I really heard. And I think, I mean, I just need to add, Dottie, that you said something about that you don't matter and that you're not significant, but I think you're one of the most significant people I've met since I moved here. And I think your contributions to the town have been enormous. So don't say that.
Reason I shouldn't be on the chopping block right now. I've tried with that house. And it's interesting, I just went to the planning commission meeting a couple of nights ago, and that's one of the things that our planner has been tasked with, to determine whether something really is historically significant. Not because somebody who wanted to make my life miserable put it on a list. I was even told I was put on the historic register, and I called Winchester, they said, no, you're not. They put lots of stuff in there because they want to influence other people's opinions. It was an insignificant house, it's still an insignificant house. It has all my money in those shrubs and trees and beautiful.
Do we need her at the mic?
magnolias, but that's all.
I do take issue that this evaluation seems to be personal. We have very clear standards. Those plans, we have two distinctions, I believe, Emily, correct me if I'm wrong. We have this distinction of historic, where it's 50 years or older. That's been a consistent regulation.
yes,
And we have the list in the plan.
correct.
The plan predated my even living in the town, and that plan required public hearings by the Planning Commission and the Town Council. So there was an opportunity to go in and object and not be included in that, much as the new plan will also make it open to people to come in and raise their concerns and issues of why it would not be there. My concern is we have to, if we are to support it, we need to be clear why we feel it's unique in this situation and others. And the ordinance, as I read it, and the policies do not read it, do not say what is the personal status of it, which sounds insensitive. We're a small town, we should be able to work together. And that's why I tried to offer the olive branch earlier about, regardless of this exercise, there's a problem with someone living in the house. And there's resources available to help them fix that. Not as an excuse to say don't tear it down, but as an excuse to have a safe place to live. That is being, I'm starting to get defensive about it. But nonetheless, I feel that and what I've been asked to do, what I took an oath to look at, and what I feel are the materials there that I did not have a hand in writing. If I did, I would have recused myself. So that's my response, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. And this is B1 property. We do got to follow the same type of processes that we've done in the past, such as the firehouse, which required a should we say a cost comparison of what it would be to keep what's there as opposed to drop it and build whatever the future building is going to be? We need, what kind of a concept, some type of conceptual site plans of the property. What is it, the cost influence to the town? What is the terminology really for that to?
Like cost benefit.
Cost benefits.
Tax? Not talking about taxes.
I'm trying to remember what kind of comparison we had to do for the firehouse. I think there was cost benefits that looked at, how it would change the employment factors. I mean, it had a boatload of things that ended up going on with this.
Well, I think
And
ultimately it
these are
wasn't
strictly due
torn
diligence.
down. And
Yeah.
and I think that instance was a realistic
Well, that-
discussion about that, and saving it in its entirety didn't make sense, right?
Right,
And-
right. There were options that were played, but when we did the cost analysis, there was no difference on whether it was dropped and rebuilt or kept.
We did a similar exercise for the Lewis home when we were developing the Hare River Master Plan. And the question was, what is the utility in maintaining that property versus tearing it down and putting in a restroom facility? And that estimate was there. But I guess my earlier point is that people need, there has to be some incentive. I would agree with Ms. Leonard that most people, if you put a property up for sale and you have a structure on it, especially an older structure, you're going to alienate probably 50%, 60% of the people that are going to want to look at it. They don't want the expense. They don't want the time. I think that was happening across the street. Anyone that looked at this property across the street, hands off. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with the headache. So to me, if we look at ways to affect that bottom line, to say not only can we increase your ROI, but reduce your development costs, does that go back? Low interest loans, those types of things to try to help people, grants. What are those types of things? Now, can I say we stand these things up in time to deal with this application? No, I don't think that's realistic. But I do believe that we should be able to look into ways to help defray that cost. The cost comparison is a useful tool. It does a lot of variables. Like I said earlier, with asking the affirmation in this instance, it's pretty invasive. You're asking someone some personal questions. I did look up the assessment of the property as well. I want to say when you look at the assessment, there's the structure value and then there's a property value. So combined, I think it's higher than the estimate that was stated. But again, you have to go into a very invasive process. You have to, and then we have to feel like we can make heads or tails of that analysis. So. Yeah, I would agree that was closer to what the combined value there. So, again, again, looking at the inspection report, it's pretty reflective. But if we accept it like this, where it has that disclaimer, it said this is not to be used, and that can come across as being argumentative or pushing the details, but in my experience, people will come back. As soon as you let something, people will come back and say, why did you give them that exception but not me?
But you just read out of your own mouth, you said that one of the requirements for a historic property is that they couldn't be encroached upon. I'm telling you, I've been encroached on 4 sides.
Ms. Leonard, we can't hear you at the mic.
One thing I was going to say that I think we should think about is even if you had that structural engineer's report, even if, we had professionals say that the house, is beyond repair, would that even be enough that I'm not saying you, but would that be enough for you to decide that it's not worth keeping? Because I know for some of the other structures in the town, like even if they had a structural engineer, like for instance, the Colonel's house, is it the Colonel's house? Like I'm sure right now, and we've talked about this as a board, that even if they said that it was, structurally not sound. Like, we can obviously see that, but we've talked about the fact that at some expense, it probably is possible to save it, if you have the right tools and all of that. So I'm just saying, like, I don't know what my thought is on everything yet, Dottie, but what I don't want us to do is to say, like, well, bring us this and bring us this if it's not gonna change our mind. Do you know what I'm saying?
And I also say that I don't want to get involved with grants and historical grants. I don't want to lose the control of my home. I own that property. I paid for that property. I don't want to give up my rights because I let somebody loan me some money or give me a grant. I'd rather have the dignity that myself and my 2 kids can go to the bank and get our own loan based on the value of the property, because the house has none. The people who gave, the assessors who gave it the value of $99,000 didn't even know what it looked like inside. If they saw that, it would have a 0 value.
So I think, Vaughn, to answer your question, when I think about the whole fish house and the old post office, if we were to go back and look at the extent of the repairs, I think we would almost rebuilt it entirely. So my thinking earlier when saying, well, if you generally rebuild it to a similar architecture, that's the same thing. So here you could say these would never be on the historic register because they're not intact. But when you drive by, you can say that represents an architectural period of the town. I asked Emily about the house down on Jefferson, and that was the question I had, does that structural, and it doesn't necessarily be, I forgot the engineer that we used over here, is it of if the bones are even bad, and it's not, at the end of the day, are you rebuilding the entirety of the house, what are we really gaining? And what cost are we putting the applicants through? So where there's a low-cost way to do that, I don't know.
And the other thing is that
excuse me,
everything
let
that's
me
been
finish.
redone doesn't even look like what the originals looked like.
So I guess that's maybe one way to look at it as well. I do think it is worth looking at opportunities. What is the vision? Is there opportunities to figure out a way to make it happen? Whether parking reductions or density increases or buffer reductions, at least have the conversation. It's unfortunate, Ms. Leonard, you and I had a really good conversation a couple of years ago, and looked at a lot of options and pretty cool concepts centered around trying to reincorporate that house. Let's have those discussions
But
again.
whatever you said drove my investor away.
I remember a thank you at the end of that conversation, but
Before I knew what he
so
had said.
that's the option. Dottie, I never talked to the investor. The only meeting I had was that meeting I had with you that day.
And him, he was
So,
here.
anyway, that's one way I think to look at it too, that makes it defensible to say, if someone says, well, why was this appropriate? We can be very clear as to why this was an exception. If that's one way to look at it.
That's just it, it's not an exception, Marchant. I've told you, I can tell you every house and where they sat that was torn down in the last 47 years, 47 plus years. This would be the exception, but you know what? This old 70-year-old redhead's getting used to being the exception in this town. And you can say it's not personal if you want to, but I have plenty of documentation.
Unfortunate, not germane to this discussion, but that's I feel that we answer that question.
Emily, normally with the demolition permits, we do require the plan, right?
We do.
And renderings.
And that's what we've done in the most recent past with the Jefferson Street home, that the permit was issued in, I believe, January, early February timeframe, only upon the approval of a building permit brought to us.
And I don't have a problem with that at all. It will be something that will make this town proud. I love this town. I'm not going to do anything to hurt it.
So technically, then,
You can make it contingent on a site plan that makes everybody happy.
but I don't think we could myself approve anything until I know that I like what would go there. And
feel the same
mean,
way. I agree with you. That's why I was upset about the blanket approvals of the drive-through restaurants. I want to know what's going to be done. I thank you for being wise enough to say that.
and I mean, for me, I think of it as your house. And I mean, I've only lived here for 3 years, but I mean, it's Miss Dottie's
And
house
I've only
to
been
us,
there
so-
for 17, but I was 30 years on Madison Street.
So, I mean, for me too, I would be sad, you know?
But I would make you proud. You could say, that's Dottie's building.
I would like to recommend that maybe the board look at tabling or deferring the application until we receive additional information. I think it's only
There is no
fair in
additional
what we
information.
have done for previous demolition applications that we looked at, so I would suggest we look at our guidelines, look at what we typically require, and make a decision.
Which would be a plan.
How can you say typically, Melanie, when you haven't even been here a year yourself? What's typical for you?
I think we need to take all the personal effects out of this, so I think the board should come to a decision on the matter.
I agree. I think we need to evaluate what the future plans are for this property. Do some type of analysis of what our guidelines will allow, and
Do certificates of appropriateness expire after a year?
They do. We can set an extension based on, if a building plan is approved and building permits are acquired, that may take longer than a year, so that can be part of an approval, having a certain date set in that.
And then are you saying that you would like to see a rendering of what the alternative is?
Well, what I don't want to do is keep asking for more evidence of why it can't be torn. And so I'm not saying that I'm for demolition. Obviously, we all know how I feel about all of the historic structures. But with any of the demolitions that I think that have been brought since I've been here, we've had to see like a plan of what they were hoping to put there if it was. But what I'm trying to get a feel from everybody is, even if they bring that, even if they bring the structural report, is everyone still thinking like, no? And then even if everybody voted no, like Dottie mentioned, and I know there's other steps she could take further down the road to get it approved. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to think about
It makes more sense.
what's the best thing. I'm sorry.
Make it contingent on what you want.
Not necessarily,
Happy with the drawing, with the
not,
site plan.
and I'm not saying we have to approve it and make it contingent. I'm not saying that yet. But do you understand what I'm saying?
You're saying a disappearing zero. Do you keep moving the mark every time you revisit and never get to a
Exactly.
decision? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think to your earlier point, if we have a basis which to say that it's just, beyond the surface, it is what it is, and I think that gives us standing, gives me a comfort level that everyone comes back in, but that's a cost to do that. And I think that would assess more. But you're right, there are other remedies beyond this to do what she wants to do. So.
I have a hard time approving anything right now without seeing what the future holds. I have no idea what concepts you have for the future of that property.
People have said they want it to be stucco again, even though that house for the first 60, 70 years of its existence was wood, I've heard people say, oh, you live in that beautiful stucco house. I hope you'll do something stucco. So I would do something stucco, but it would be right stucco, not done on the outside of wood. And I'll tell you what I would like to do, and I have something in my phone that's close. That I'll be happy to let you look at. It's going to be a 4-story structure, of course.
The thing is, a picture and a description is not really good enough. I need some type of concept package and.
My concept, and you can tie it to anything you want. The thing is, it's hard for me to get investors involved unless they know that house can come down. They don't want to touch it, and it can just sit there and keep being eaten by termites until it crumbles. I don't want it to go to that extent, but I can't keep spending money on it. I know I've spent $200,000 after I bought the property, and I would like you to please find, Marchant, this piece you just read at the beginning of the meeting where you said historic properties cannot be encroached on. I have been nothing but encroached on, and I will bring proof to the meeting. Front, back, and both sides. And yes, you did mention one very positive thing that would help us. It's 3 stories of residential, 1 of retail, restaurant, beauty shop, and little antique furniture.
It's a great plan. I don't
shop.
think I ever told you it wasn't.
No, but what you said that was a good plan, that might help is change some of the setbacks, because it doesn't make sense for a B1 property to have all those setbacks when 3/4 of it's residential. And the property that was around me, that was B1 too.
Do you think me evil incarnate? I disagree. I'd be happy to sit down and talk with you what you're trying to do, and if we can get to resolution on this, that's fine. The only thing I would check is 4 stories. Do we allow that in B1?
Yes,
4 stories, 55
50
feet?
feet.
Okay. I thought it was 3 stories, sorry. I'm thinking residential. I think the residential has 3 stories.
Way smarter than you think.
Well, I'm not as evil as you think I am.
I would like to find that out.
So I think we probably should wait until we actually see actual plans. Is that what you all are thinking?
No one has ever done that. No one has ever had to bring plans to get a demolition permit.
The applicant who applied in the winter of 2017 and received approval in 2018 did bring plans.
One.
They brought a concept of each home that they were going to put on the property. They are putting 2 residential homes on the single property that they had there, so they did bring a concept plan to the board.
That's
Z Properties also did.
Yes, Z Properties with the firehouse did as well.
In my time, it
It's a
was
standard
the
routine.
garage up on Jordan, the single-family home next to the animal hospital, that was a little ranch-style house, that's come down. I'm not aware of the other ones that have come down since. I know Giuseppe's had a house on that before Giuseppe's was built. So, but I think you're right, Zizios was the one that was listed as a structure and had that plan that they were looking at.
And there was a cost benefit package
Yeah, they did a
put together with
comparison. And I think what
And
the,
that's all I'm looking for here. I mean, we're talking about commercial property.
This is it.
And, you know,
excuse me.
If someone wants to demolish a structure that they own, ultimately, there are so many steps, even past us,
that's right.
that they could still get it done.
That's right.
Am I
There are
correct?
appeals processes, which they can raise it to the council and then take it even higher past
I
the
think what she was
council.
saying, checkpoints, were you referring to checkpoints, Bond?
Well, no, I'm thinking like, if eventually she can still have it done,
2 elevators.
do we want to, you know,
Classy, nice building.
go through all of that?
Feet, is it,
If she can
you know?
still do it? Do you know what I mean?
30,000 square feet. It's just.
I mean, I guess
like
it depends if
these
all of
other
those appeal
buildings up
processes
here, but
approve or
2 floors.
deny. Even at the
And,
appeal
you
level,
have
can they
enough
still
real estate for
deny or?
parking for all that stuff?
Yes,
So I
do.
think the main focus is applying the
The other
same
thing,
requirements and treatment that we did to the
I
previous
know, but I'm
applicants.
saying,
You're welcome to look at that. That's my.
Bond, I didn't hear your question, I'm sorry.
okay.
Which is similar to the house itself, but, and that's not, you know, I talked about an antique shop that I was gonna have, or wooden furniture that I talked.
Bond, what was your question? I'm sorry, to Emily.
I was saying that if someone owns a property and they want to demolish it, even beyond us, obviously there's other steps that they would have to take. So
There
for
are
each
legal
of those steps,
too.
if they were approved or denied, I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, eventually, I don't know how I'm trying to say it, but I just don't want to drag her through it if in the end she can still do it.
There's, Emily, correct me if I'm
I
wrong.
still want to go through the process of seeing the plans and all of that, but I don't want to like keep asking for additional things if what ultimately your vote is just, or our vote or whoever's vote is just no. You know what I mean?
I think there's either yes or no. Again, I'm being cognizant, I can take my hat off on zoning administrator, but it is in the ARB guidelines, I think, is that approval or disapproval, the applicant or an aggrieved party has the right to appeal it to the council and make their case there as well.
And then if the council was to say no,
Then you can go to the court. And there's also state enabling legislation, 15-2, that's 2306, so paragraph whatever, establishes the rights of the applicant that beyond those two, or those checkpoints, to, again, begin the process. I think there's some
the court
checkpoints.
said no, isn't there something about?
Court isn't gonna say no. It's a property rights state.
So the,
Something about having to put the house on the market for a
that's
certain
in the
amount of
15, that's the
time.
enabling legislation in the state saying you have to.
And that doesn't sell,
Yeah.
and then she can finally
Correct.
do it.
I think that's the worst case scenario, but yes, that is the last straw would be that process that you talked about.
But that would
So-
also be unfair because
I know, and
my land is valuable.
This is what I'm trying to say, though. And I think we should see the plans. But what I'm saying is to put her or anyone through all of that to the very end, she still owns it, she could still demolish it at that end.
There are
You know, is
remedies
it
to get
worth
to that
it?
end. Yeah.
You know, like,
You're saying, is it worth going through that? Is that what the?
yeah, is it, I mean, would we want to really put her through that? In my opinion, no. So I feel like I don't need a structural report because for me, I would love for you to save it. I would love for her to, you know, spend $300,000 to renovate it. And I know how much it costs because, you know, we've done it. And
You did
obviously.
it with one story, and my
No,
house
and I
is a
know.
lot bigger than
Well,
yours.
my parents did theirs too, and it was very expensive, and I understand the cost of all of that stuff. She wants to demolish it, you know what I mean? Like, I can't convince her or anybody else to do that. And so I would rather look at it saying, if that's her end goal, and she's willing to go through all of that, I would rather see the plans and
Get something we
and go
all
from
like.
there, I guess, and see that it's something that we could work with together with the town, et cetera, to have it be something that, you know, she loves, she can, you know, provide for her family. We love, that's, you know, at least I would love to have it have that historic resemblance of her home and all of that. So for me today, obviously, I think we should table it. I think we need to see plans and all of that. And, you know, that might be a little bit of a process to
It's a
to
problem,
get
and
to, as far as, you know, getting it to be something that we all love for the town. But what I don't want to do is like keep asking for more and more things. And
Everything
it just,
you're
to me, it
asking
doesn't
for,
seem like it's going to be beneficial for our town or for her or for all the boards and et cetera.
everything you're asking for costs 20,000 here, 80,000 there. I don't have that money. I need an investor. In order for me to do that, they want to know that house can come down. So that's the thing hanging over everybody. It can sit there and rot down and
For
be
the
an
plans and the
eyesore.
renderings, it would be that much?
Pardon me?
For plans?
Yes,
or
because
renderings?
it involves an engineer, it involves an architect. Yes, of course it does.
Your point was aligned with what I had said earlier, which I thought was the same thing, which is there's an opportunity to do that and look at ways to create this vision or make it happen. But I do have kind of given me pause that is the basis on you have to start from scorched earth and get something in the future, so.
Mhm.
No. Not an easy decision, so. So if we table it to next month, what's the ask?
I'd like to see a vote tonight, up or down.
I need more information.
What do you need more information on?
I need a concept plan on what she plans on doing with the property.
I just showed
Just
you
a picture is not good enough. I mean, I had to ask her for how many square feet and, you know, 4 stories, that's the first one to me. You know, looking at 4 stories, you got an expanse of property next door. Would I approve that as an ARB in the future? I don't know if I could, because I would need to see architectural details at that point. But 4 stories, when you got St. Paul and the parklands that we've kind of put over there, it's going to make the side
Haymarket
lopsided,
Station is
especially
3
with Haymarket
stories
Station.
already.
But, you know, it's something that, if we know the concept, we could actually start to think about it, get something. And so for me tonight, if I had to make a decision on it, I don't know what the future holds with that property. I can't put it down. But if I table it and we have some type of concept package where we can actually work with it,
I don't
discuss
have the money.
details.
I don't have the money
I'm
to
not
get your
asking for
concept.
architectural stuff. I'm just asking for a concept package here, not detailed pictures, but you already know what you want to kind of put there.
Yes, I do.
So, you know, I would feel a little bit better being able to ponder that, think about it, because right now, how much time have we had to think about this?
A week.
I haven't even had a week, because
Or I think it was the week that it was dropped
the
off.
packet was given to us on Thursday. I couldn't review it until Monday.
Oh.
I
So
received
didn't
it on
even-
Saturday. What is normal?
My package.
She said it was a week, that's why I brought it in.
Plus we are not allowed to discuss it between us until we are in a public forum. So this is the very first time
Oh,
we've had a
that's cool.
chance to discuss it together.
That's refreshing and new. Very refreshing and new.
So,
Glad to hear
you know,
that.
I'm just kind of stating why my hesitation would be to want to defer this and you know, discuss some of these concepts.
Obviously,
If we vote tonight, I feel I don't have enough information, and I'm going to vote no. I'll
obviously
put that up right now, so.
you three have more background into this than I have. I guess I am the fresh eyes on the board, and I took it as it was presented, the report and the pictures. I know what insects can do, and I see that the house is going to be a piece of paper, because the wood underneath it is beyond repair. And I lived in Florida long enough to know that, past a certain amount of termites, within a square feet, and the way that the house is just crumbling, nobody wants to touch it, nobody wants to buy it. People leave. People leave. Considering her age and what she wants to do to live for her children. I am ready to vote today.
Comments from you, or?
Yeah, so I did end up going through most of it. I mean, some of it was skimming, some of it was, like on the serious stuff. Like I was actually reading through it and making notes, which I wasn't able to bring in today. But obviously, I'm very new to the ARB and what's, the history of Haymarket. I've been reading, but you can only do so much reading a week. But Emily, what is the general precedence for demolition? Like, I mean, I know we talked about it a little bit about, like, recently there have been necessity of plans and concepts, but that wasn't always the case.
In my term here, that is how we've done it. We have concept plans brought in, and the permit is issued on a condition that if that plan is acceptable to the board, that they then go through the planning commission, they do the site plan process, and then they come back to the ARB for the architectural style, and then they come back and get a building permit. So that has been the kind of scenario we've worked with before.
For how many months has that been?
Ma'am, I've been here for a year, so I would wish that you not bring that up. I don't think that matters.
It's important to me because of all the years that I've seen all these houses come down.
We do have others in this room who are able to share their history of the town and their experience here and other demolition applications, so I think that's where we need to keep it at.
One for the house on Washington Street across. That one, I was staff at the time when we brought it, and the ARB did not require it, but it was not considered. I think the evaluation was the style of house, what it was, the timing, some of the history based on the parcel. And it wasn't,
So it wasn't anything.
when 50 years old, that trigger point is again the 50 year, and then the plan list, comprehensive plan list. And so at the time it was, and they've been kicked out of it and been condemned as well. The other one that I'm aware of, we took down the Gossams Grocery. I don't remember that happened shortly after I got here. I don't know what the decision was in that.
$200,000 they paid to have it taken down.
Joe's, I don't know what was required when Giuseppe's came down. But the one recent memory that I had some relationship to didn't require it, but it was the garage on Jordan Lane. It was that house on Washington Street.
Yeah, but most of the ones that you remember have been residential zoned, right?
That shouldn't
No,
matter.
the one next to the animal hospital is B2, B1. That was B1. The one on Jordan Lane is R1. That was the old cinder block garage that was up there. Again, the ones before that I'm aware of. I wasn't aware what the decision-making process was.
If we table it until next time and she brings us plans, I'm not saying like professional, architectural renderings, but if she brings us plans, are we going to be able to come to a vote next meeting? Can we spend this month like really, diving into everything and
That would be my goal.
yeah.
But
Because
if
I
it's not
don't-
architectural renderings, and then I hire an architect afterwards and it changes,
Well, everything will be approved by the ARB in the future, but what I'm saying is like at least the
Exactly.
concept
Exactly, it
next
is.
time. And that would give everybody a little bit more time to, I guess, do whatever everyone needs to do to vote, next time. I just want to make sure that
I have, honestly,
we don't drag it out forever, because I just don't want to do that,
I love you, but let me say this, it doesn't make sense, because you all are going to have the final word on whatever I do anyway. The ARB is going to approve whatever I do. If you aren't pleased with it, it can't be done. I don't know, I've never heard of anybody having to do drawings for the ARB to get a structure torn down when the ARB has the final word on what it's going to look like anyway.
So maybe tabling it until everybody can vote next month? Does everybody just need more time, or does everybody feel like they're ready to vote?
I feel ready to vote. I think that the permit is for demolition, yay or nay.
This property has not gone through the due diligence that we've done for the past two properties. We've tried to make a standard here on the processes that we use. I got to vote no on this until we go through those processes.
I think every house is different, or every property is different, and I have seen a lot. I've lived here 17 years, and of course, I have not served here 17 years, but I get around for 17 years. I have seen Joe's property, I have seen the other property, and I haven't seen any damage as worse as this. By nature, a bug.
I think for me,
All I
Ken,
need is a motion, if you guys want to move forward.
And that's what the inspector said. Thank you for noticing that, because that's exactly what the inspector said.
Well, Dottie, I think that if you really want to change our mind to demolish your property, you should bring a form, with an official form by the proper person who does it.
That's the very same person who did the other one that they approved. I called them and got his name.
Emily, the building officials that went across the street, how was that process kicked off? The county building official?
That was kicked off due to some businesses and involving the fire marshal's office.
I take that back, because what I don't want to have happen is someone look at her home and kick her out. I don't want that to happen. So looking for more commentary, or are we ready to, isn't that?
I don't know. I feel like I've been through this now with like the firehouse and some of the other structures, and just as everyone is so frustrated that drives through Haymarket to see the old buildings, I'm starting to become where I think to myself, I think, did Z Properties sell the firehouse now?
No, they still own it.
They still own it, okay. I just hate seeing
Stuff in
nothing
disrepair.
done, and then, a lot of the buildings, they just get neglected. They let the And I'm like, I'm thinking I can keep saying no to every demolition in town. And you know that my goal would be to just, if I could, fix all of them, but I can't and we can't. So I'm starting to get so frustrated with that process, of saying no to them, because then nothing gets done and they just sit there and we're not able to move quickly enough to put the money in to fix them. And we
So like
can't.
the blight
Yeah, all of
violations
them.
that they've given
Yeah.
across the street.
Those would be
we made our
townhouses,
list of
and
things.
and look nice.
And put them in order of what's most important, but I just don't know that it will
What's most
be enough
important
to move
is creating
fast
our
enough,
town.
So if we say no, her house, the longer that we put it off, the house is gonna just keep getting worse and worse and worse, and Dottie's gonna keep getting older and older, and
And one day you'll find me in it.
you know what I mean? I'm just getting like,
No,
I don't know what to do. Sorry, I'm just being honest.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. For the time that I spent talking to people about that property across the street, at first point, the town was ready to go after him, and I met with Mr. Smith. Stan Smith came up from Florida. I'm sorry, this is off topic a little bit, but he was the absentee investor of that property. And I walked him around, he's like, I own all this? He's like, yes, you own all that, and wasn't aware of the condition of the property. So then he put it up for sale. Talked to the council about that too, saying, no, we have some progress moving forward, we have the folks that come in, and for whatever reason, the sale price had never got off. So I had to, come to the council with my tail between my legs and say, we've not been able to successfully bring something back to you, we just can't seem to get off the finish line. And they had held off doing the blight ordinance for a number of months in anticipation that someone was gonna come in, and here it is 4 years later and still nothing's happened.
Can I interject there? I have sent blight ordinance letters to
Okay.
that property owner and several others based on our list that we made, based on the list that council gave me and directed me to write letters on and to act on. So action's being taken. I think we need to just come back to what's at hand
Okay.
tonight, and that's 14801 Washington
I understand,
Street.
Emily, what you're saying, but what I'm trying to say is like, maybe we need to be doing things differently.
That was the idea of the resources. Come back to this one, is my concern is how do we inadvertently make it easy for folks to come in and simply say, I don't want to deal with it anymore, let it down. What we've not done, I guess we're doing the blight ordinance, but the ordinance says very specifically, these listed structures are not to be deteriorated to a point of that. And where they are, and where we note a violation, we're supposed to send the building official out, and I guess that's what's serving with the blight letter, right?
And that's abuse
So,
of residents.
I don't think we've done it though. So, is my concern, is that all these properties that are getting ready to turn over, or hopefully turn over, they're all gonna have to come in for same permits. So to the point, in my mind, if it's the concept that gives us assurance, that defends it to say, well, these guys had a concept, you didn't. If we accept my concern about the inspection report, is they can, maybe there's some way to have this gentleman for not a whole lot of money, provide some more things, something that says it's defensible and goes back and says,
I saw them come in at least 15 years ago and get turned down.
oh,
to
across the
Planning
street?
Commission.
Yeah.
Yes, I
So,
did. Joe
I think we can get
Contrusi.
there. I would feel more comfortable basing a decision on a little more certainty as to I'm not doubting this inspection, it's terrible. And I'm a little concerned about someone living there. But can we get that one extra step to my earlier point that says, there's really no reasonable way that this can be built. The time you do everything that you need to do, you've more or less rebuilt the whole thing, and what are you really getting? And maybe I can think on that in some ways, that how do we get that doesn't cost a lot for the applicant to do, but something that reasonable. I spoke a lot about all these things. I'm at advantage because I'm very familiar with these documents. I don't know that you're basing it on a lot of what I said, but go back and look at it yourself, and you may not come to the same conclusion that I have come through reviewing the ordinances. So if that gives some time to look over those too. those are my final thoughts.
So you want a decision tonight, right?
I would like a decision tonight. I need to know because if either I get an investor or I sit over there and croak with my house.
Okay, I think we spent enough time tossing this around. We need to move forward on something. So I'm going to put a motion up there
Okay.
to approve demolition.
Okay.
Do I got a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, we got a second, a motion and a second. Final discussions. Y'all know what my opinion is. I don't have enough information. Anybody else want to make a comment before we vote? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay.
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 Okay.
Do we need a,
Mm-hmm. So she got approval.
3-2 in favor of the permit.
God bless you all.
But we'll still need her plans, correct?
I'll be happy to do that.
Mm-hmm. So do we need to add that?
If you want me to change something on it, I'll change it. I
So-
want you to love it and me to love it.
With the condition that she brings the plans. and that
Speak of
they're
my baby
approved.
boy, he
Do I need
just
to add
walked
that, or is
in.
that- I do? Okay, do I need to make a,
amendment?
I need to make an amendment to the motion. Do I need to vote to get the amendment?
Well, no, we voted on
Yeah,
it.
it was voted, so you would need to.
Shelley, what's Robert's Rules of Order? Reconsider?
You need a, I believe you need a vote to amend.
I make a motion
To
to
reconsider.
amend.
Is it amend or reconsider?
It's been voted on, you got to reconsider it.
I make a motion to reconsider the motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in
All
favor?
those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And you want to put the condition on it?
Yes.
Well,
Oh, the
Not-
motion to reconsider.
this is a motion to reconsider, then we'll go through the motion again.
Okay.
So we got, all in favor of reconsidering, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Reconsider the motion or the amendment?
Yes, and
The
now I'm
motion.
going to make the motion again with the condition, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I make a motion.
Full aye for the reconsideration.
That's okay. I make a motion to approve zoning permit number 2018-046 with the condition that Dottie gets approval from the Planning Commission and ARB and Town Council, or no? Planning Commission and ARB for her plans and architectural design
No problem,
of a new building,
no problem.
that you go through the proper procedures prior to demolition. Anything else?
The only other thing I would say is if you do it that way, there will only be a 1-year.
No
period
problem.
For that, so do you want to give her any additional time?
Could I come back and ask for additional time if I need it? I'll have the plans to you before then. A year's
Ask
enough for me.
clarification. You're putting a motion in to say that the building will not come down until those conditions are met.
No, I'm making a motion that the demolition is approved with the conditions that we receive the plans.
Before or after the building?
What, be
Until-
specific about what plans you're expecting. They're not going to
We already
be,
voted on the
No.
building being demolished.
No. So the approval is the building will be demolished, yes, but we have to go through all the proper steps of getting the Planning Commission and the Architectural Review Board to approve the building plans.
They have to do that anyway,
They
right?
have to do
But
that
that's the
anyway.
building
but that's
plans.
not, yeah.
That's another
You're going to
permit.
do
That's what I
that
said
anyway.
first.
So that, I guess that's why I clarified. I know the vote was to tear it down, but are we saying that
Before.
But
tear
the-
it
before
down.
you can physically go out and tear it down, we have to include those plans, or, because if that's not the case, you're just approving it, then she's got to come back anyway, so there's really no, that condition doesn't really serve,
Is it on the condition of what we talked about earlier in terms of like a general plan as to what she's planning on putting there?
Well,
Just
she'll
the
have to
basic
bring that
general.
anyway.
Okay.
Well, that's all you're going to get initially.
To see the building come down next month before anything is approved, or do you want to wait until all approvals are given and then she may take the building down so that the lot doesn't sit
Yes.
empty as scorched earth?
I'm not
Yes.
taking
the
the,
time period?
I'm not
Well,
taking it
I
down
didn't
until
vote
I'm
for
ready
that.
to start
I
work.
voted for the permit itself of demolishing. She wanted to make an amendment.
Right, so y'all voted to reconsider the motion, and so everyone said yes, now she's making a new motion to put before the board,
Prove it
Well-
with the,
with the condition.
Yes, I just, probably I am off here, but I do not understand why a resident will demolish a home, right? Put a permit, yay or nay, go through the process, and then, you know, an amendment is done when, well, let's say it like it is. When there is a process where if she wants to build something there, she has to go through the proper channels to get through the planning commission, to the town, and to
Of
the
course.
ARB.
One
So
scenario would
the
be-
amendment
She's
is
saying
not,
so that she can't, I'm not saying that you would, but that she can't just tear it down next month and it just sits there and the plans never
That's
come.
not going to happen.
That's what we're
So,
doing.
yeah, one scenario could be.
So she
if-
has to get the plans and shows that,
Yes, the way
It's
the
happening.
motion.
They aren't going to be
previously-
the plans, because
The way the motion was previously approved, it allowed for the demolition permit with no conditions. So that would then mean she can go pull a permit with the county building department, have the building demolished, and then the land sits empty. She could turn around and sell it. I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but that is a scenario that could have happened with the motion that was made. So Bond is now redoing the motion to apply a condition so that we can then see her building plans, we can have them come back, and then the building will come down after those have been approved.
that isn't going to happen. You're wise. What you said is wise because it's already been approved. And I'm not going to tear it down and let it sit there and do nothing. I want to move forward with this building.
amendment.
However you would like to proceed with the motion is up to you guys.
So we've already voted to reconsider. So
we were cloudy on that. I was very cloudy on that.
on the reconsidering? On that?
that's a, I think it's a Robert's rule is when, if you vote on something, you've made that decision in order to open it up again.
You need
To change the terms, you have to reconsider it, so you do it that way, so.
I think it's done. And I'll make you proud, believe me.
So
I care more about the
we're
town than
adding
you
the
all do.
conditions. Can you please help me so I can
Okay.
write it
Sounds
down
like what I heard you
properly?
say is a motion to approve the permit with the condition, what I heard you say was architectural plans approved by the ARB, site plans approved by the planning commission. Till such time those are approved, building won't come down. At some time that they are, well, that's what I heard her say, that's why I wanted to say it back.
But that's not accurate. That's not going to happen.
Well, that's why I'm asking it back, to make sure, is that what we're saying? And that, to me, that would mean as soon as it's approved, it's not. The other scenario would be after a year, if that's the condition that's put on it, after a year, you'd have to do it again.
I mean, even Dog's Day Out, they're working on getting their site ready. And they went through site plan, but I need to know whether I can tear that house down before I start all of those expenses and engineering work. Yes, it is. Thank you.
Hey, just as a side note, I'm sorry I'm being rude, I have kids at home that are texting me, that's why I'm looking at my phone. Welcome to your first meeting.
Three more.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm going to try this again. To approve zoning permit number 2018-046 with the condition that the demolition cannot take place. So I've approved it, but the demolition cannot physically take place until all plans are approved by the Planning Commission and the ARB.
That's not acceptable because all plans are not going to be approved by them before that house comes down. Were yours all approved before your?
I think it's appropriate for the board to make the motion how they wish and to vote on the motion. And
So
I'm just letting them know what works. It's either going to work or it's not going to work. I'll go back home and I'll stay there.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Is that, so
That's what
the
I said
building
back-
can't come down. It's approved, but it cannot come down until the plans come through Planning Commission and Architectural Review Board. Okay.
How I
I
understood it.
think everybody's scared about this, but we already voted.
Well, we're voting again because it was voting to reconsider. You can vote.
I asked what was the reconsideration.
To add the conditions. That was why the vote was reopened. Or the-
To add the condition to vote for the condition, right? Because we already voted for the demolition.
Right.
We
but
can go back on the video.
But then we
And vote
voted
it.
to
We voted to
reconsider.
reconsider our vote.
that demolition to add another condition to the demolition. So it's still approved for demolition, however, it can't be demolished until those conditions are met.
And if you're talking about site plan approval.
I guess I don't understand the process, the basic process. This is a permit for demolition, and it was approved.
But then we approved to reconsider it because we missed something we wanted to add, or at least that's what Bond said.
Did you do a
And we all
roll call
voted.
vote on the reconsideration?
yes, never mind.
I guess at this point, make the motion with the condition.
I did.
And if
We just
vote
need
on
someone to
I
second
guess
it.
If you're not comfortable with that, then I would assume that you wouldn't vote with the condition if that's your position.
So we are voting on the demolition again.
Again, but with a condition that Bond is asked to add a condition to that approval.
Okay,
And the vote would be whether or not to approve it with that stipulation.
okay. This is just for the procedure,
Mhm.
okay? I have a question for the procedure, not
Okay.
for what is not for the permit itself.
Right.
So what we voted before, is that nil?
Right. It's been nullified by the reconsideration vote.
Okay. I guess,
I'm sorry, that's
I
kind
guess
of,
that's what,
why are you
it
doing
was the
reconsidering? Yeah.
procedural, I got stuck.
So usually sometimes if you're making a motion, you can say make an amendment, and then you do a final vote. Once you vote, then
I guess I did not understand,
Yeah.
you know.
the only way to open it back up to add it was to reconsider. Sorry about that. Robert's Rules of Order can be very confusing.
Excuse me a second, this is my son Charles. He suggested that we agree to a certain time frame, that we wouldn't start the demolition for at least 3 months or something, and give us time to, before we start the work. We want to move forward. We're tied to getting it done in a year, and then you're tying our hands that it can't be done. We don't even know that an engineer will be ready to do the drawings. We don't know that.
We don't want the building to come down, though, until we have the
But
project
I need the
approvals.
blanket approval that it can come down.
That's what we've
in
given
order to
you.
get an investor.
But that's what this vote is that we're approving the demolition, but that we have to have the plans and all of that approved by the ARB and the Planning Commission prior to the building coming down. If you, let's say, next month or in 2 months or whatever, you were to bring all those plans and you have your investor, they know that it's okay for the building to come down, and then you bring those plans to us and Town Planning Commission, and all of that's approved, at that point, then you could start taking the building down, because then everybody would say, like, yes, they were okay with the future plans, and you can proceed with taking the house down and then building.
It sounds that some of the investors may not agree to invest with that condition that, you know, they've got to wait, and you need the investors to be able to get the plans, get the architectural review.
I understand, but I think for me, I don't feel comfortable with the house coming down until we have those plans.
If you put
It's raw at
a
that
time
point.
frame on it, it sounded like the concern is that
let it
there's
know.
going to be a long
Mhm.
period of time with the house being down before anything was constructed or potentially sold with the house being down. Just, you know, then put a time frame around it, you know, and say, you know, we will allow no more than 2
I think I
months.
still feel comfortable with my motion. I don't know if anybody wants to second it, and then we can vote, and then if we don't vote for approval, then we don't, and,
So,
but that is what I feel comfortable with. I'm approving her demolition, I just want to have everything in hand before they begin it.
okay, so let's make sure we got everything understood. We have a motion.
Mhm.
Your motion is, let's make sure
To
we...
approve zoning permit number 2018-046 with the condition that the demolition cannot physically take place until all plans are approved by the Architectural Review Board and Planning Commission.
Okay, I got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Last chance for any type of discussions. Do you have any objections?
This sounds like you have to have definite plans, like final plans, all concrete. What about preliminary?
I think preliminary would make more sense, and I'm remembering that it took them 3 years to go through the Planning Commission and the ARB. I watched it, it was sad.
Go ahead.
Okay, anybody else have any quick comments before we vote on this? We got a motion and a second on it.
Can we do
Okay.
a roll call vote?
Let's do a roll call vote on this so we're cleared.
Larson,
No?
Cavazos,
Yes.
Schneider,
No.
Guerrero,
With preliminary plans?
No, with what I read.
No.
sorry,
No?
no. Corral,
Yes. Okay, that
So now I have to wait again, right?
The reconsideration for that vote fails, right?
is there another, that failed, so is there another motion?
So you approved it previously though, right? And then it fall back to that?
No.
So, sounds like what you're asking is to approve it, not with
With-
final plans, but with your,
Preliminary plans.
But what does that mean?
Well, just like you plan something, you know, you have preliminaries, but you go ahead and have this step. This step was the demolition, and you have a preliminary. You don't have the definite plans, you know, with how many feet this one is from the street or whatnot. A preliminary, your concept, the materials that you will have, but not definitely, because it takes a lot of planning. But at least she can sit with her architects, with the people, with the team that she assembles, you know, to have something.
And get an investor that will.
And then she can still bring
stay
it
in.
here, and you can see it happening. That is a preliminary.
I guess the challenge is, what is the mechanism that approves, not the challenge, but what is the mechanism to do that? If it's an ARB application, then do we approve concepts? If it's a zoning, if it's a planning commission? I'm just thinking administratively, how does that work with a
Well,
planning?
it has been done case by case.
The committee would have to go through the planning commission regardless after demolition when it's being built as is, right?
Her case is different than everybody else's, than Giuseppe's. Giuseppe's knew that he wanted to move there 35 years ago when he moved to Gainesville. So,
What happens when the building gets dropped, then it's raw land, and people change their mind on what their future plans are. That totally opens this up for being sold to somebody else.
You know,
somebody
all
coming
of
in.
these ideas are just totally bizarre. If I wasn't ready to go move forward and build this building, I've been waiting. Marchant finally got it approved for 50 feet and 4 floors. I've been shouting hallelujah and couldn't wait until I got the right steps so I could move forward with this, but I need an investor, and some of the things are tying my hands. I can't pay for all those things if you tie my hands.
So at this point, it seems like that vote failed. That vote on the table, and the other options are either
Table it or
table it, or you can
Or
do
fail
another.
it and let it go to amendment.
Or a preliminary plan,
Okay.
that she keeps coming
You-
back and back, you know, will you approve for this, will you approve for that?
Would you like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion if you let me this.
I just I don't understand still, honestly. I mean, I feel like that's kind of the same
You're
thing
giving
that I
her a
said.
short time to have a definite plan with blueprints and everything to approve a demolition,
Yeah.
which it's already done. We approved the demolition.
We didn't now, though.
I don't know. Maybe it's me.
No, it's not you.
Look, everyone has their own opinion.
Yes,
Your
that's
opinion is
very
just as
true.
valuable as anybody else's, too. But we got to move forward here, so what does, I need somebody to make a motion, or I'm going to make a motion for the original
I think if she
vote.
comes with a preliminary plan that it's a building, it should be approved that way.
But come on, discussion.
Architect and a plan together, you demonstrate good faith that you're moving forward, I think, with the project. You got investors, they in good faith that you sign up that line with investors that you're gonna move forward with the project. I think I understand the concerns that
Well,
were brought up, that you can't tie.
No, we're going forward.
this is
Chairman, I would like to propose that we take a 5-minute recess, that everybody can take a minute to kind of stretch their legs. Let's regroup. We've been at this for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I would like to request a recess, please.
As long as you're not putting ideas in their head.
We're
No,
not
ma'am,
allowed to
I'm
talk
not. I'm
about
going to
this.
actually ask
Go
the
to the
chairman to
bathroom.
have the applicant sit in the audience so that they can make a decision without interruptions, and we can have a discussion and make this motion. We still have 3 additional applications on the agenda tonight, and I think out of respect for everyone's time, we should move on.
I told you this would
Yeah.
happen.
Let's go for a recess. Let's put up a vote before you go. Julie, before you go, we need to make a vote for recess, so hold on.
Do we need to?
Just all in favor?
All in favor of a recess for 5 minutes, say aye.
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 Let's go. Okay, we are back from recession. Is that the right term? I guess it is. Recess, sorry. To continue on with our debate. Before we can go any further with our agenda, we need to do something with this COA. So, do we want to throw it out there again with a different amendment, or do we want to go with the initial motion? It's up for discussion with you guys on how you want to proceed.
I believe Julia wanted to make the motion with approval with the amendment, with the condition of preliminary plans as to what will go there. I think was what she wanted to do. I'm not sure about. And you wanted the second amendment that we were talked about with the approvals from Planning Commission, ARB, as well as council.
And I mean, she will still have to get all of that anyway.
Right, exactly.
Mhm. So really, it's a matter of if you're making that with the preliminary plans, if she brought the preliminary plans in a month, then that means the structure could come down in a month. And then something that might not be built there ever, because it's just preliminary plans. You're okay with that?
I am okay with that.
Okay.
We do a time frame instead, as was suggested by.
She wants something, you know, I'm taking it her word also. She's a citizen here. She would have to see me if she doesn't do anything with her house, you know, if it's demolished. But I take it at her word. She came here and she stood there 2 hours, discussions back and forth. She wants something done. We are tying her if we don't vote.
So, does anybody want to make a motion? Right now, I'm holding off to let you discuss your opinions. Do you want to make a motion on that?
We ready?
If nobody wants to move forward, I will make a motion, and I'll make the same motion I made the last time.
I still feel more comfortable with this because I just don't want the house to be demolished and then sit there.
I hear you.
And I understand what you're saying too. So if you want to make a motion on that, you can. It's up to you.
I will make the motion. Then it's, I make a motion to approve Certificate of Appropriateness, ZP 2018-046, to demolish the residential home at 14801 Washington Street with the following condition. That the demolition cannot take place until preliminary plans are approved.
Point of information, what is considered preliminary plans?
Well, she knows she wants a building. She knows she wants a
Well, what do
floor.
we consider preliminary plans? So we do have a hurdle. We have a milestone mark. I don't know what preliminary plans would be. So I can't second it or vote yes on it, just because I have no idea what that milestone is.
You just made the motion, was there?
So I got a
second?
motion, any second by anybody else? No second, so the motion doesn't follow through. I make a motion to approve the COA as it stands. So I got a second on that.
I can make my motion again. I don't know if that makes a difference.
I just don't understand why. If she still needs to approve, she still needs to apply for permits to
Then
build
maybe
something there.
we're not all in agreement, so it's not getting approved, right?
The permit was approved, and you wanted to add something to it. So we voted into null it to add, you know, whatever you wanted to vote for that amendment. I don't think we haven't voted for that amendment.
Right now, as it stands, COA is still floating. There's no approvals, denials, or anything. So if Dottie wants something tonight, I'm kind of restricting on whether, we go for a table, but we got to move forward with something.
Well, the way I read it,
Is what would people agree upon to at least vote on?
Yeah.
right, I guess I am frustrated about the process. I do not know why we had to have the word added for amendment, the condition, adding a condition where the permit was for demolition or not
You
demolition.
should have seconded my motion. I'll make
Well,
it again. I make a
asked-
motion to approve the
Yes.
certificate of
And that's why I
appropriateness.
ask you, what are we voting for now? Because we already voted
As
once.
the certificate of appropriateness stands.
Uh-huh.
I got that motion on the table. Anybody want to second that? I thought you would want to second it. I don't have
Is
it.
there an option, either dies for no vote, or you table it?
Question for our Roberts Rules
I am,
expert?
yes, I am confused.
So, I guess,
Yes.
Maybe read out the draft motion.
Okay.
which
There
one?
might be confusion there. Maybe read out the exact motion.
The original
Okay,
motion?
Yeah.
Can I try to explain it procedurally? So,
Here we go.
folks will be frustrated by this, but we have to make sure that it's clear what we're voting on and what the terms on, not only for our benefit, but whoever's subject to the decision, whether to approve or deny. It is not uncommon for the ARB to put conditions on it, like we did earlier tonight.
I understand.
So and tonight, I think what happened was, we may have misunderstood what had happened, so we voted on it, we had a decision. Then there was a question of,
Somebody said,
what-
wait, I want to
did
add
that mean,
something.
yeah, did that mean you would do X? And then we offered it up to reconsider. That those that voted in favor of the original motion to approve agreed to reconsider. We agreed to reconsider too. And that means you start over. You start from scratch.
Well, I thought that we were voting for the reconsideration, the add-on.
Now, the reconsideration was to open up the vote again, start over and start over again and vote from scratch. And that's when the vote started.
That's what that's what I asked. I was,
That was the issue? Okay. So in theory, if we didn't want to open it up again, reconsider it, we could have voted no, and then the original motion would have the original approval would have stood.
Even if she voted no and everybody else voted yes, it would have still been reconsidered.
That I don't know, since you need, do you need a majority to reconsider? I'm sorry, I asked you that earlier, I forgot. Okay, I thought for some reason you needed a majority, so.
We did.
4 to
I'm
1.
just trying to let her know that it's not just because of her vote. I'm trying to make her feel better.
no.
That
I
it's
just
not,
want to understand.
yeah.
I want to understand.
Yeah. So I'm saying it's not because you voted yes to reconsider that we reconsidered. It still would have been reconsidered,
Open
even
it
if
up
you
again.
voted no.
To reconsider, to add on the definite plans.
Well, we had to redo it in order to do that.
So the
Well, that's
initial
what is not called an amendment. An amendment is to add on something, and I guess that's what I am confused about, the definition of the word amendment.
We reconsidered.
You don't just scratch everything, then that is not an amendment, that is a do-over.
Right, that's a
That's what we
reconsider.
did. We did a
It was a
reconsider.
reconsideration. You voted, and then you voted together as a whole to reconsider that motion.
If Bond had caught her point before we voted
Okay.
and said, before we vote, I want to, is this, and said, I want an
understand how my
amendment.
brain
Yeah,
is
yeah, exactly.
working?
So if she had said an amendment at that time,
It's not for
We
the
would've
issue,
voted on
it's
it.
for the,
so.
But it had already gone through, so we had to do a reconsider in order for me to change it.
Right. So,
So now, there's a no vote on this.
literally no vote. So.
Yeah. So, no one seems to be able to agree, so I make a motion to approve Certificate of Appropriateness, ZP 2018-04, 046, is that it?
46, yes.
046, to demolish the residential home at 14801 Washington Street with no conditions, which is what we had before. I got a motion on the table. Anybody want to second it?
I second it.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Now we'll go for vote, or wait, before we go for vote, any final discussions? Okay? And for this vote, just for clarity, I would like to do a roll call vote, please. Okay.
Corral?
Aye.
Cabrera Rosick?
Yes, aye.
Marchand Schneider?
No.
Vassos?
No.
And Larson?
No. Tough decision, but I think you're probably going to have to appeal it at this point or go to town council.
You table it, does that do anything if you table it?
Vote's been made, not unless you want to reconsider.
No, I mean,
I'm
if
not
the
gonna
vote
reconsider.
failed, oh, the motion failed. Okay. Shelley, what's the protocol on that? So we just voted to,
Give them their options.
The motion failed.
okay. Can you make an alternate motion at this point? What's the utility in tabling it? A little more time to look at stuff or consider, or no? That's your earlier question.
Yeah, I still, like I said earlier, I'm okay with the demolition, approving it, but we have to have all the plans approved.
Okay.
So-
Let me. I'm reading the rights of appeal. So at this point, it says either shall approve or disapprove, or fail to take action within 45 days. Would you read it that way? I'm sorry. If we fail to take a vote tonight, does that come into play?
I think he has something different.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
I would say yes, but let me ask.
That's why I wanted to no vote on the approval.
Okay.
Like I said, it goes to council at that point.
Okay.
Wouldn't you agree?
Well, yeah, that's the next step.
We'll meet again before 45 days.
What's that?
It says fails to take action within 45 days of its
Okay.
filing.
So in theory, no action tonight, we can take it up next month?
You, technically, you would have, well, it says filing, when did she file it? Okay, let's do the math there.
So what, 37
So
or
technically,
38?
you could take action next month, and you'd be within the 45-day range.
Okay. So that's a, I guess we leave it at an impasse and bring it back next month?
Wednesday, the what? 12th? When did she bring it in, file it when?
The 12th.
I'm sorry, what I'm looking at now, as it says in the ordinance, it
I
creates,
have
yeah, it creates
30
a,
days is going to do, what difference is 30 days going to do? You're still going to be here.
I think it's a more clarification for us to be unanimous in this.
We've heard what you want, what do you guys want? What do you want to see? Why are you saying no?
Is this Marshall's?
Yes, that is Marshall's.
Tell us what you want to see so we can know what to do.
I don't think we're at that point anymore.
We're not at that point. I wanted at the concept. You know, this is a commercial property now, so it's a concept.
Turn up your mic, I can't.
I'm sorry. We were discussing what the earlier discussion was. Were you not here when we had the earlier?
No,
discussion?
The concept, and he wasn't, only Dottie was here. Well, like I said, I would like to review the codes. I'd like to see some type of simple concept package of what you plan to do with the property. But you were forcing our hands for a vote tonight, so that's what I was trying to get at.
Preliminary plan, that's what her motion was, for a preliminary plan. That's what you're asking for. That is a concept, and I can do that.
Then I would propose that we defer this till next meeting.
And you'd like her to bring a concept next meeting?
With the submission of the concept plan within that time.
Somebody to do my concept. I don't have the money until I have an approved demolition.
Can you make a concept on your own for next meeting?
I just showed you all one. It was in my phone. I just showed you my concept.
Mr. Chairman, I guess the way I see it now, we've not had a successful motion either to approve or deny, or yet approve to or deny it. That's why I asked the question, if we don't make a decision tonight, what happens? I think at this point, with the other applicants waiting and the length of the discussion, and if, the applicants, if Mr. Leonard wants to review the discussions of our meetings, and then we can come back next month. Like you said, look through the ordinances, look through the policies, revisit some of the discussions, and we can come back again. I think that's as far as we're going to get tonight.
Yeah. I think we'll just put this off as a no vote, and we'll address it next meeting.
Is that acceptable, Sherry? We don't have to table it?
I would
Okay.
make a motion.
Okay.
Do something.
I make a motion to table, zoning permit number 2018-046. Can somebody second it?
Seconded.
Got a motion and a second. Anybody want to discuss it beforehand? All in favor? There's no confusion on this, right? I don't need a roll call for this?
No, we are voting to actually
Table it till next meeting.
No decision.
pass it to.
We could do roll call.
Roll call, please.
Burrell?
Aye.
Rosick?
Aye.
Schneider?
Yes.
Vassos?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes. Okay, let's move on.
There's nobody else here. What about the shed? What about the shed?
We're
So
47.
we have, let me look. So we have 3 additional certificate of appropriatenesses for this evening. However, you see the applicants aren't here. We can work through them, or we can defer them until the applicant chooses to show up at the meeting to defend the application.
Let's defer, because we won't be able to ask any questions.
Can we ask our questions and defer, and then she can relay them to the applicant so they can come back?
Sure.
Okay, let's run through 2018-047,
Which one is this one?
6939 Little John Court shed application.
I'm
This-
sorry, page number on cheat sheet?
Oh, I'm sorry.
107.
108.
108.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
So this one's a unique situation. If you'll look at page 111, so the home sits on a court, small cul-de-sac, and it backs up to 2 lots. The applicant is applying for a shed under their deck. It is similar in style to 115. It'll look just like this. So the only people who would actually see it are the neighbors behind. So this may be one you guys choose to act on. It might be a clear answer.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Similar materials to match,
Yep.
same staining, all those.
Yeah,
variables.
you'll see his deck is 114, 113 and 112. He's going to pretty much do the exact same thing. However, the two side pieces won't be as large because of his space being smaller. You'll see on page 117, this is what his will look like.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks like a skirt.
Mr. Chairman, I have no issues with it as is.
I do not have issues, as long as, I didn't really read the description. It does say same stain as the deck and all that stuff, right? Just to make sure that we're in line with everything.
Yes, and they will still be submitting the HOA approval as well. They have put it up in front of the ARC, however, they haven't issued the official approval.
That's Ms.
Okay.
Leonard, so. I guess, do we want to make that a condition of?
He looked at me like
Yep.
I'm
We just
guilty of
wanna verify.
something.
Yeah, if I do make a motion on this, I would put a condition of staying same as the deck and HOA approval.
Oh, yeah. The HOA, I think, is approved already.
Those are the only
It
two
looks-
conditions I'd put on it.
It looks like he got all his neighbors' signatures.
HOA approved.
I think
Oh, yeah.
he's,
Is it?
Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah,
on-
it says it on the
109.
conditions already.
Does
Yeah,
it say
I have-
approved or disapproved, though?
I have that we
Oh.
will approve it upon receipt of their approval. If you look at the bottom of
Okay.
110, they haven't officially given approval through the community, so I'm still waiting to receive that. Their meeting was after hours.
Do we need to
So
have it
we're
approved, or is that
approving
just a
it
heads
with
up?
the condition that it's
Yes.
approved by their HOA.
So what happens is I will give him the zoning approval letter when he shows me the approval of the HOA.
Anybody want to put a
Okay.
motion up there, or do you want me to do it?
Bond's been leading the way. You wanna-
Bond's been blazing the trail.
Turn. I make a motion to approve zoning permit number 2018-047 with the condition that it is stained the same color stain as the deck and that they receive HOA approval.
Seconded.
Got a motion and a second. Last chance for discussion. Let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
The next application, 2018-048, is for a home in Haymarket Station, 6859 Trackport. They are installing a patio in their backyard. If you flip to page 127, 126, 127, you'll see the patio style, so it's not really visible from the street. The neighbors will see it. It'll be raised one paver height off of the ground, so one paver grade. The pavers are as you see in the picture here. And it meets all of the necessary buffers, boundaries, setbacks.
So, like, I ask you a quick question. Chairman just brought up a question, and I think it's a similar thing too. I think the question of, is this under our purview? When I asked a similar question, it was precedence that we had done that, but I don't know that we necessarily, do we have to keep doing that, or can we?
We don't. If I'm going off of precedence that
Okay.
was set before I was here,
Okay.
if that's something that you guys say, Emily, this is a patio that is a pretty much in-ground structure that the public has no visual of, I'm okay
Yeah.
us not taking these applications on.
I think the last time I seen any application for ground level was part of a boatload of other things for, I don't know what the church is called over there now. I think it's changed names by,
St. Paul's
across
is
from
St.
you.
Paul's.
Is it still St. Paul's? Yeah, and I kind of questioned it then. Why are we approving sidewalks?
So I think just because they submitted the application, they paid their fee, I think we should give them some certainty about it, but.
The only question I have is that a permanent fire pit structure that they're putting in?
I believe so.
Yes.
You know, how high does it stand? Is there detail?
It comes in the plans to be.
Yeah, I didn't see the details
I
on
want to
that.
see if it was there.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I was just questioning it.
I think it's a 1 foot
1 foot.
above grade.
Yeah, see, that's not even high enough to worry about, so.
I'm trying to look at the provision that says, that limits the purview.
Yeah,
Of-
and it's probably a fence level, 4 feet or something, right?
Do you mind if I read from the ordinance? It says, "The board shall not consider interior arrangement, relative size, detailed design, or features not subject to any public view, and shall not make any requirements, regarding such matters." So whether you're on track court, a public street, and can see this patio, I think but I think we can give some reasonable discretion to the zoning administrator to interpret what that means.
Yeah. Yeah, ground
Okay.
level things, I think, are typically.
Are you
okay
comfortable
by
with
me.
that?
I am, yes.
Do
Okay,
we need to
but
make
for
a
this
motion
one,
about it?
Let's go ahead and
just vote on this and,
Since they pay their fees and,
No, I mean like after that. Do we need to make a motion to make you?
no.
no.
Okay.
Okay,
Did you already make the motion?
not yet.
No, I'm sorry. Do you want to give you a break, or you're doing such a good job?
You have a turn.
Okay, I move that the planning, or not the planning commission, the architectural review board approves ZP 048 6859 track court patio application.
I second the motion.
Okay, you got a motion and second. I don't think there's any discussion, right?
Only discussion for, do we do, well, never mind, no discussion.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
I almost just
Okay.
went back on myself.
So next one, 2018-0506639 Hunting Path Road. This is for a deck and fence application. The applicant is looking to build a new 16 by 12 wood deck and a fence. So this is one that I requested the applicant be in attendance due to the lack of photos. They were supposed to bring them this evening with them, along with colors. However, they are not here.
We're gonna have to
so
wait on that
I
one.
recommend deferral of this application.
Not bickering, debate.
Debating, okay. That's better terminology. Okay, yeah.
I make a motion to
defer
defer zoning permit number 2018-050.
Seconded.
Okay, motion and second. Any real discussion?
What do we want for next time?
Colors, pictures.
Colors, pictures, detail on if it's a raised deck, if
like
he's
the
going to
applicant
match the
here,
fence that's
too.
already in Longstreet Commons, because that's an exceptional fence, as you know, and all that stuff. So, kind of an understanding of all that. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Okay, there are two more items on the agenda. I'm happy to give a very brief 1-minute statement about them so that you guys can have some homework to go home and think about, and then we can bring them back up at our next meeting if that is applicable and okay with everyone.
Yep.
Is that good? Okay. So the very first thing is the Virginia Tourism Love sign. So these are the big love sculptures. They have this program, as many of you have probably seen as you travel throughout Virginia, where you can design your own letters. We would have to pay for it and build it ourselves, but they have some requirements of what you would do. So I was hoping that as a board, you guys can all sit down and start thinking about what symbols best represent our town and what we want to say. So we would need to come up with some ideas for all of the lettering, and then we can maybe have it drawn up and go through the process of, if this is something we want to do we want to place it at the museum with the caboose, do something that as it brings tourists in, they still see our historic museum, they see the caboose there, And then we'll also have that interpretive signage we have at the patio. Maybe we'll get some at the caboose, so it kind of brings this whole tourism thing to life a little bit more there. Or we could look at doing it at the park.
That's what I was thinking when I read this.
So
Mhm.
either way, it kind of, you know, the museum's already busy enough, so maybe putting it down at the park, it just brings some more people down that way.
And there's that open grass area, so I could see people going there and taking pictures and all of that.
Absolutely. Okay, so as a homework task, I just ask that everybody think about what you guys want to use as symbols. Are there historic elements that, you know, we can use, colors?
Symbols on the sign.
Pardon?
Symbols on the love
Yeah,
letters.
so
Okay.
what I would highly
Or
recommend,
materials to
take
make
some
that letter.
time to go to their website and look through the different ideas. So down in Harrisonburg at the Virginia Quilt Museum, they have one in the backyard of it, but it has symbols of historic Harrisonburg that make it up. Others, wine country, they have, you know, some wine symbols out, I think in Loudon somewhere that they
Airlie
make.
has one
Yeah.
too. That has like, I think the O is like a tire.
One of Manassas.
I have,
Rail station.
The one in Culpeper
Yeah.
is gorgeous.
So
It's
take
about
some-
innovation.
Okay, so let's take some time and let's all kind of research different ones we like. Do we like the ones that, for instance, some of the more coastal areas will use like paddles to make up the L's. So do we like that look, or do we like something like in this picture where it's more uniform with one feature, the red that pops out at you? So just some ideas. We can bring in some of our favorites, and we can add that to our gateway sign discussion as well.
I have in my yard, like behind my shed, some of the original like metal roofing from our house that I saved for the museum, but they're really big pieces, so that could probably, I mean, it's just an option, but they're metal. Another cool thing, just while I'm thinking about it, would be like the railroad pieces, since we have the railroad.
The ironworks.
And also the sandstone rock or whatever was prominent in town for a while.
It's on the stone house back here. It's on the garage.
The mill.
That'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, there's
so
a lot of potential.
A lot of
So
potential
just
for that.
some fun ideas so that we can kind of put something new in town to bring in some tourism there and showcase that. And then the last thing, a little bit of a twofold. I was hoping for a decision tonight, if we can make one maybe quickly. The Planning Commission has set a priority list for us to start working on activating the park. So their top things were trash cans, which the ARB already decided, I think back in the springtime, on a design and a look. So those are ordered. They should be delivered hopefully the end of this week. And you'll see them up at the park very, very soon. The next thing was bike racks. So we had discussed this for a while there. Monday night we had a meeting and they've requested that you guys pick out a bike rack that will have 10 spaces for bikes. We're thinking that since we can't do the site plan that we have approved right now, we're gonna have to phase it. We want one that is movable so that long-term we can pick it up, reposition it. The other thing with the kind of curved typical mounts you see, we don't have a surface yet that we can mount it to.
I don't like those anyway.
So there's magazines up there. Maybe we can make a decision. I would love to go ahead and get it ordered so we could go ahead and get it there.
The 10 station.
Yes.
And then to come back at this at some point in the future where we have somewhere to fix them to. Is that what you're saying?
So we're picking out the 10 station for the park
Okay.
right now, and that will be temporarily there until we get our site plans out and we have the permanent ones. The other one on the back of here is for us to start the discussions on how many do we want along the streetscape, where do we want to
Oh, that's
place
right. Okay,
them,
I'm sorry.
and then do we want to go with a design like this where we inset our seal, or maybe we take it down to just the museum, or just wordage. So this is for you guys, this design here, to start thinking about. And as
Isn't
we-
this the only option?
Pretty much.
In that magazine, yes, there's
10
another
10 bikes.
magazine, and then I can hand you more if that was not a good
I
enough
think I'm looking a little bit at durability.
Yeah.
I'm looking for people pick it up and walk away.
If you try to pick up one of those picnic tables down there, they may be ugly, but they're extremely heavy.
Yes. I don't want chief to be following someone down the street, with bike racks.
Well, it looks like we picked one. I don't know.
I think with it as a temporary thing that encourages people to go down there, that's,
Really,
I'm okay with it.
the question is a black one okay?
Yeah.
Or dark green? I think black will look good with what we already have picked out.
Because everything has black on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna order that tomorrow, as long as it's good with everyone else.
You need official vote on that, or you good?
If you wanna make a motion to vote on it, I'm happy to accept it.
I make a motion to order. Should I really do it?
Go for it.
The traditional powder-coated bike rack, letter H, 60-inch by 37.75-inch, 10 bike rack, double-sided.
Thank you.
Does anybody second it?
Second?
Yes, they will.
Okay, motion second. Quick discussions, none. Vote, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Order.
Okay, so just think about the bike racks, think about the love sign. We'll regroup and get all that, going. I'll move, if it's all right with you all, move through the old business. No updates as of right now. We will be bringing to the ARB soon, hopefully playground designs. We're working on a playground up at the park in the front grassy areas, since the one from Cookies and Cream had to be removed. So I have some ideas for some natural kind of colors, things like that, to keep with our historic palette. So hopefully as early as next month, I'll have ideas for you guys. That's it there. That's also kind of the town planner update. Ayush is our planning commission liaison.
Welcome
This is
aboard.
his first meeting, so welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you could be here and glad you stuck it out with us. So, I don't know if you want to give an update on our meeting today.
I don't have my stuff on me, but I don't think anything.
Pretty much about the park.
It was pretty much mostly about the park. It was a pretty quick meeting. We talked a bit about the bike rack, and we said we agreed on the bike rack, and let you guys decide, like the ARB decide on what kind of bike rack, and then let Emily take over and order those whenever she can. I think that's about it, and I'll have an update for you guys, I guess, next month for our next meeting as to what happens and what we decide on then.
That's good. Move on to town council update.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I didn't prepare for that. Okay, let me think back.
You approved Crossroads, Cross Trail?
Oh, no, wait, we did, well, I didn't, but the town council approved that, well, I think one was undecided or was shelved. And then I think 2 of the SUPs for the drive-up restaurants were approved, but then the mayor vetoed. So, am I right? No? Oh. Can we?
So the 2 were just approved, and I think also at that meeting, we discussed, when they'll come in with site plans, they have an undetermined answer. And that was about it on the fairgrounds at that.
Did they give any timing on when they're going to start residential, or? No.
No timing yet on that.
But as before, that's things that we look at, right? So,
I'm so sorry.
no problem.
Next month I'll be ready to give you that
You're fine.
report. Anything else
Any
from that?
questions for
Yeah.
Bond? Any questions for Bond? Looks like you're off the hook.
Okay.
I have one little
Oh, yes,
update.
sure.
Haymarket Day, of course, was postponed. It's now October 20th, so anybody who wants to volunteer, help, come out, support us, work with the town council, town of Haymarket booth,
If you want to volunteer for parking, I could help with parking.
The one other thing, the veteran banners, the applications are out and the samples in, so.
I'll
They
be
look really
bringing
nice.
mine.
They looked very nice.
Your new
Do you recognize the headshot?
Briggs Veneer
Do you recognize
for
the
the
headshot?
Verizon.
Was that you?
Have you gotten
Was
any
that actually you?
applications yet?
It's me a
I'm
long
not
time
too
ago.
late at my the veterans.
Yeah, because I think, Emily pulled it out and kind of showed us one. It was you?
Yeah, the guinea pig.
No, I'm just talking about.
I was just joking. You recognize the mug? I think I told you I was at the brewery out here. I'm sorry, it's off topic. And someone's like, "You look familiar or something? You're that guy." I'm like, well, "You're that guy on the banner." So
Oh, really?
I guess they saw the banner displayed here, or they saw it in the meeting or something. So.
Famous already.
Just like Shelley in the lip sync video.
Oh, that's right. That was awesome.
Okay, well, it's getting too late to get off agenda, so next item, adjournment.
Oh, my gosh.
We got a
I make a
motion.
motion to adjourn.
Got a motion second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We adjourn at 10:40. Well, go to the real time, 10:37.
I think this is our latest. Since I've been on. Well, no, that was planning.
Good one.
Or
I
no.
knew this would be a long one, though.
Yeah.
'Cause I knew we'd get into an